a lot of you guys listening probably don't know much about fighting roosters, but if you fight roosters, and one of the roosters, he can be the baddest cock on earth, but if he gets beat one time, he won't be the same the rest of his life. All it takes, and he can even make a full recovery, but he's just like mentally he never realizes it, and he gets beat one time, and he's not the same the rest of his life, man. And dude, I just relate to that so much, man. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can too, who have had a setback, who have made a big mistake, who have had an injury, and they find themselves years down the road never really attempting to go to the same level that they were going prior to that mistake or prior to that injury. I mean, it's just countless times in my life that's played into my reality, and we've never talked about it on the podcast. All right, Kirt Finnell.
Yes, sir.
Man, this one's been a long time coming, huh? How long we been talking about sitting down and doing this interview?
It's been a minute, man.
Yeah, I know it's been at least 6 months.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Thank you for being here, man.
Man, I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. This is one of our first interview episodes in a long time, so I'm really excited to be able to release this to you guys. And kicking it off with Kirt is pretty special because not a lot of people know Kirt because he hadn't been in the public eye.
That's intentional.
Yet. Yeah. So not a lot of people know Kirt, which is why I'm excited about having him on the podcast, because I think more people need to know who he is, what he's doing, and he has just a lot of value to bring to everybody. And you ask, how do I know that? It's because Kirt's brought a lot of value to my life just in the recent months in multiple different ways. And so that's how I know he has value to offer and why I'm excited about having him on the show. Just a little bit about Kirt. Kirt lives right here near me, and we train together quite often. He is a former collegiate athlete. He is a Green Beret, and he last year won the national championship in the tactical division at Tactical Games. And this year, he's now won 2 regional events in the elite division and is preparing now to compete at the national championship in the elite division this year, which is legit. It's stiff competition. All right, I've only been to 1 Tactical Games, and I realized, okay, I got some work to do. And I was in the tactical division. The elite is the highest division that you can compete in at those events. So he's done a lot of great things in life. He's married, has a stepson, and just all around an amazing human being. Also a ROP course instructor. Hey. Add that to the resume now, man.
Check that box.
Yeah, man. So that's just a little bit about Kirt, and we're going to dig into that stuff and get a little more perspective on who he is and why he's followed the path he's followed and kind of what has allowed him to be successful in multiple different arenas, essentially. I really want to hear from him what kind of the fundamental things have been that have helped him along the way. So, Kirt, I just want to start, man, with selfishly, because I don't know a lot about your personal, history. Mm-hmm. So I just want to start with just a little bit about where you grew up, how you grew up. Mm-hmm. What was that like? Were you outside all the time? What were you into? Sure. What was life like?
Sure, yeah.
Who were some of your mentors? I mean, I want to hear about that part of your life, man.
Okay. No, yeah, like you said, born and raised here in Rome, my whole life. So, growing up, good Lord, a little bit different back when I grew up. So, our parents had to come wrangle us to come inside. We, school's out, we're outside playing, man. I loved it, man. We're out there building forts or building bike ramps to go do stupid things off of, all the stuff that kids like to do and go entertain themselves, because we didn't have all the types of, entertainment.
Yeah.
That those kids have today. So
Didn't have your iPad,
right,
tablet.
Yeah, we when the lights went off, when the street lights went off, that's when we came home, right?
Same here, man. Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I always been outside. I've always enjoyed being outside, hunting, fishing, anything to get me outdoors. That's kind of where I've always been comfortable. So, growing up, that's what I did. I learned to shoot from my mother's father, my grandfather. He was the first one to take me hunting. He gave me a bow. I promise you, if I'd have shot a deer, it'd have bounced off of it. So it wasn't much, but I had one, man. I was ready.
When did you get your first bow? Do you remember?
Oh, gosh. I had to probably be around 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I was young.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the best thing in the world.
I did too, man. That's about the same age I got my first bow.
And, we practiced, and, it just barely broke the skin of that target. And that deer had all the chance in the world. I didn't have a chance killing anything, but it was just that experience and that rush of, going out there and, having the opportunity to harvest an animal like that. That's a rush that, a lot of people unfortunately don't get to see or experience. And kind of the bug bit there, man. It's, being out in the wilderness like that and understanding, how to go hunt and all the nuances to it, and learning how to go after these animals and, harvest those animals, and then what to do afterwards. And utilizing everything that you can with an animal, so like that. So love that stuff. Shooting, love shooting.
When did that start for you?
Oh boy, no, that was even younger. I was pestering my parents about, BB guns and all those types of things since I could imagine. Of course, what is it? Christmas Story.
Oh yeah,
where you talking
with
about
the Red Ryder.
Yeah, where you're gonna shoot your eye out and all this kind of stuff. So I eventually got one. I was pretty young when I got one, but it never stopped from there. I mean, once I got that hold of the first one, and then got to start shooting with my my grandfather and stuff like that, and I've never stopped since. So that's something that's deeply ingrained in me, is just that sport and skill of shooting.
Now, did you have any G.I. Joes, man?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure, because I was a G.I. Joe guy.
I had one.
What about the little did you ever play with the little plastic army men that had like the plastic platform on the bottom? I
had those, but so I'll do you one better. And probably not a lot of people out of my circle know this. So I was a big Ninja Turtle fan.
Okay.
I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back then, man.
Heck yeah, man.
I was all about those dudes. I thought they were it.
That's awesome, dude.
So I was all into that. And, I mean, even Halloween, I dressed up as a Ninja Turtle. The martial arts thing, and the whole underground, and coming up and fighting bad guys and all this kind of stuff. And I'd ask my dad, say, hey, man, because he loves telling this story now. I would always ask him for things like, hey, can you get me some nunchucks?
Oh, yeah, man.
This or that, stuff that they would have. And he'd be like, oh, man, I'll see what I can do. And, he would sneak in and write notes from the Ninja Turtles.
That's awesome.
Giving me stuff and be like, yeah, well, we couldn't get you some nunchucks, but we got you this. And, I thought it was the best thing in the world. And, so I love that kind of stuff. So I've always been, hands-on, athletic, outdoorsy, doing those types of things. So,
Who were some? I've heard you mention your grandfather and also your father. Mm-hmm. Were those kind of were they mentors to you growing up? Did you spend a lot of time with them, or?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, definitely, my father, of course.
Which I've never met him before. I'd love to meet him one day.
Yep, he's here. He's local. Works hard. As hardest working man I've ever met. And I have to believe that's where I get a lot of my discipline when it comes to putting in hard work. He's just, when you find something that you love and enjoy like he has, it's not a job anymore. It's just a passion.
Yeah.
And he's got that, and I think that's where I get mine from with the passion for shooting and fitness. So,
was he hard on you growing up, or did you just like learn that by watching him?
No, there was definitely some whooping going on back in my day. I was a hellion growing up, man.
Yeah.
Did
Did you ever have to go pick your own switch out of the yard?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Just
We had
making
that.
sure.
We had all the tools.
Yeah.
Anything we used them all on my rear end. I promise you that. So, but I needed it. I definitely needed it because I was always pushing the boundaries, man. I always wanted to see how far I could get with this or that, or just out exploring and not knowing any better. You're learning and having to bump steer me. He's always bump steered me. And he still bump steers me today, and I appreciate that. And I definitely look up to him and his hard work and what he does and what he's done and what he's created through all his own hard work. Massively appreciate that and respect it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was an athlete, Kentucky. So was his father, both incredible athletes, just hard nosed. Back then, those days, man, that was a different game.
Football players?
Football players.
Okay.
Different sport back then. I mean, the stories that I've been told are, will put some chills down your spine about how things were back in those days. And it just makes you appreciate the level of intensity that those guys have. So, yeah, definitely get a lot from those guys.
That's awesome, man. Any brothers or sisters?
Nope. I'm only one,
just
man.
you. No
I'm
kidding,
all they
man.
could handle, man.
What about your mom? Were you were you close to her? Or are you still close to her?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. I love my mom. She was always the one doing anything she could for me growing up. She took care of the house, made sure I was fed, and she was always trying to participate in any activities and sporting events and making sure that she was there and getting me where I needed to be or getting me what I needed and,
That's awesome,
all those types of things. So definitely much appreciation for all that she did for me growing up and stuff like that.
Well, coming up before you made it or before you decided to go to college, how were those years of life, kind of early teens? Did you hit a wild spell? Did you stay on track? I mean, what were those years like for you?
Man, those were some interesting years. Definitely wouldn't say I stayed on track.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely got off track. I had some deviations occur in my life that could argue for the better. Potentially, I'm sure they changed some things in my life that I can't understand now, but I had to go some different places and finish up school in another state.
No kidding, man.
Yep. And so through that, though, I met some incredible people, and it was kind of a wake-up call to the reality of the situation of some things, and so it was good for me. But I was still able to stay on the track that I wanted to be on with playing collegiate football.
Mm-hmm. When did that begin for you? What age playing ball?
So I started when I was in sixth grade.
Okay.
So I started late. I didn't really get into football. I was all sports. Anything I could play sport-wise, I played. But I didn't really get into football till middle school. And why, I'm not real sure. Maybe I just didn't show an interest, and my parents never really pushed me that way or whatever. But I played every other sport you could growing up from, heck, before I could even dribble a basketball, I was playing basketball.
Okay.
Right? So, soccer and those types of sports at the YMCA here locally.
So that was the track then. Like that was when did you decide? Like at what age did you decide? Okay, I want to take this and play in college.
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to play at the next level. In what sport? We can go in deeper about the decisions I made and how I may wish some of them may have been different sitting where I am now, knowing what I know now, right? We can go down that rabbit hole. But I always knew I wanted to play at the next level. And for some reason, I chose football. I loved everything about it. I loved the team aspect of it. I loved, the tenacity of it, the discipline you had to have, what it took to be good at that level because I wanted to play in the SEC. And, you know, seeing those athletes at that level, I mean, the talent level in that world is incredible.
That's interesting that you appreciated all of those aspects of that sport at that young of an age, because I would not have been able to appreciate.
Yeah. Well, you know, I guess I got lucky and got exposure to some of it potentially. And, you know, seeing that and understanding it, you know, because I played other sports. You know, I was successful in soccer. I was successful in golf and baseball and basketball and, you know, and lacrosse. You know, I did a bunch of everything and was successful at it all. But I knew that, and, you know, this kind of goes back to something you talked about the other day, right? I knew I had to kind of hone in on one.
Yeah.
Right, that singular focus, right? And so that's what I settled on. I was like, you know, this sport is one of the most challenging and most difficult potentially to get into the next level and then the next level, right? It is hyper competitive, and I am a ultra competitive person. And so I thrive on that challenge of, can I take myself to that next level?
Yeah.
Do I have what it takes?
Even at that young age.
Yeah. So I always appreciated being, and now I took advantage of myself, and I didn't really have the discipline that I have now. When I was younger, I just happened to have raw talent.
Mm-hmm.
I was athletic. I was very athletic. I could show up and put out, and it drove my coaches nuts. And it drove my dad nuts. But I never really understood it, because I was like, well, what does it matter? I show up and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing it well. I'm excelling, you know, I'm making all state this or all team that or whatever. And I never really truly understood what hard work was and what true discipline to your craft was.
Yeah.
Until later in life.
Do you that's my next question was, along that journey leading up to playing college ball, what were the things that hindered you? Like,
Myself.
And was it the fact that you didn't understand those aspects of hard work, and was it like,
absolutely? Yeah, I relied on my raw talent too much. I relied on my raw talent and its ability to do everything I needed it to do, and more, really.
Mm-hmm.
Had I had the discipline that my father was trying to instill in me, had I harnessed that and actually put in the work that I now put into what I'm trying to do, like at the tactical games, had I had that, just even a fraction of it when I was younger, there's no telling what I could have accomplished.
So at what point did you realize that was going to be important? Did you have to get to a level where the people around you were better than you
absolutely.
were?
Man, first day, you show up at the SEC, you realize that I may have been the best in my region or whatever, right? You know, all this, that, and the other. But, man, you step onto that stage, especially in the SEC, you know, at Ole Miss, oh, man, like I was at the bottom of the totem pole, man. I then realized, okay, now this is where the hard work starts, because no longer can my talent get me where it needs to get me. I now have to put in the work. I have to get stronger. I have to get faster. I have to study film. I have to do all these things so that I can hopefully get close to where these other dudes are, because the talent, the athletic talent there is unparalleled. It's insane what these guys are capable of. And the guys that I got to play with and next to and practice with, I mean, you're talking about, like, you know, one just off the top of my head, like Patrick Willis. I mean, it's just insane what they're capable of naturally. And then on top of that, they put in the hard work. Now, not all of them did, but because some of them were just, you know, crazy talented. But people like him that would put in the hard work, man, I was just holding on for dear life in that world, man.
What's up, guys? My name is Chadd Wright. I'm a former U.S. Navy SEAL, ultramarathon runner, and entrepreneur. So I have the covert pant on from Barbell Apparel. This is my first time wearing them today. As soon as I put them on, I was immediately impressed with just the functionality and the comfort of this pant. It fits me really, I mean, essentially perfectly. It's not too tight, it's not too loose. The fabric is perfect, it stretches, it moves with my body, just like we would expect from any pant that Barbell puts out. They set the pockets in the right spots. It has tons of features. They look good, they wear good, they function well. First impressions, I wish I would have had these things a long time ago. What took you so long, Barbell? It's wild to think about how that natural talent and just, you know, your natural gifts can actually become a weakness once you reach a certain level, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it is so important, man, to seek out environments and like to continue to try to go to the next level. The next environment, seek out those environments where you're going to have to step into an arena where everyone around you is better than you, right? Oh, yeah. But nobody wants to do that, man, because if you have a little natural talent or natural gifting in whatever it's in, it could be in freaking digging ditches, right? Yeah. Like you kind of just want to stay in the place where
you're comfortable.
You're able to lean on that talent that you have, and you don't have to do all the extra work, and you can stay the best person around and just be comfortable doing it, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I can only imagine that would be a slap in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Showing up to that new environment and being like, holy crap, okay.
Things got real.
These guys have worked hard, have outworked me, and they're more talented than me.
That's right. Yeah.
So you would have to learn a lot real quick.
Real quick. So that's kind of where, unfortunately, at that point, I wouldn't say it was too late, because I'm glad it happened at that point, but that's where things started to click as, okay, like I have some talents. I am gifted in many ways, but now I've got to put in the work to really elevate things to the next level. Mm-hmm. If I want to truly be competitive, no longer can you just sit around like, I'm good on that last sprint, coach, or I don't need to do that extra lift.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to go watch that film or whatever, because I'm good. No.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Was that a decision that you had to make? Like,
I don't think it was a decision. I mean, you either going to do it or you're just going to get shown the door. Because,
so it's a necessity.
Oh, it's a necessity at that level. You know, I mean, that world is so hyper competitive, and it's you know, part of the problem with that world is that it's almost so much business like. Mm-hmm. You kind of lose some of the sport there. Yes, the sport of football is the sport of football, but at that level, it does take on a level of business. And if you're not meeting the criteria in that business, in any business, you're going to get shown the door.
Yeah.
So, you know, you either got to put in the work and get to the levels that they need you to be at so that you can be competitive and contribute, or they're not going to waste their time on you. They don't have the time to do that. This is a business. We got to keep the machine running. And if you're not willing to put in the work and time, we don't have time for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So first of all, what's that process like, even getting selected to be on a team like that? Because, I mean, there's got to be thousands of young men from all over the country applying to this school to be a part of this team, and it's very limited. So.
Right. Well, so, I'll say back in my day, you submitted film, right? It wasn't like nowadays where, everything's at the tip of your fingers and social media and the NIL stuff or any of that. It's, we put together a film. We took film from my games. My dad put together this incredible film that we still have, that we still enjoy watching from time to time. And you send it off to these teams that you hope to get. Now, if you're a real stud, yes, you've created those ripples and waves in the world and in the high school world. And yeah, you don't need to do those kind of things. Well, I wasn't really creating waves outside of my region or state. Yeah. Right. So, you put together film and you send it off to all the teams, and, you hope to hear something back.
Mm-hmm.
And or you follow up and kind of have conversations. And it happens at different, you go, for some like teams now, like at Beret, right, or, shorter that have those football teams all the way up to the Division I SEC level teams. You send them all over the place just kind of to see what's out there, see what's interested. Do they have a need for your talents and whatnot? So, we reached out and I got feedback from, all different levels. SEC was very skim. Kentucky and Ole Miss, I think, were the only two that had any sort of interest. And probably Kentucky just because I'm sure, my father and their, tenure there might have helped that some, but had some interest elsewhere. And, we can talk about that because it's a pretty funny story. It's particular Wyoming, the University of Wyoming.
Yeah. I do want to hear that. And it's a good time for that right now.
Yeah. So you send it all out. People reach you out. Coaches reach you out and say, hey, we'd like to have you come in and do an official visit or something like that and see our program. And, they kind of, roll the red carpet out for you and all that kind of stuff. So I got to go on an official visit to Wyoming. And I didn't really have a ton of interest in Wyoming. Number one, because it's all the way across the country.
And now you want to freaking live in Wyoming.
Now I want to live there. I know. So don't rub it in, man. But yeah, so I got the opportunity to go out, and I went to a few other places as well. But Wyoming's by far the one that stood out the most. So they took me out on an official visit, and it was incredible. It was kind of like a childhood dream, if you will. You get there, and they're welcoming you in, and introducing you to all the coaches and all this kind of stuff. And I remember the first time we got there, and they walked me into the locker room, and they just built this new facility. It was incredible. And in the locker room, the first locker in the very middle had all my jerseys, my gear, everything already with my name on it.
Dang, they wanted you bad then.
They wanted me pretty bad.
Huh.
And so, wow, right, man, this is incredible. You're going out to eat and places like that, and just random people are coming up to you, man, hey, we'd love to see you here. How do you even know who I am? But it was that small community out in Laramie at that time. And so, yeah, I mean, they took me out to this ranch and, show me where I could be living and, all these things. And, they were going to help me get into, I was really interested in cars at that point. And
come on, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I never knew you were interested in cars, man.
Big time.
What the heck, man?
Yeah. So there was a place out there called Wyotech. And that's what they do. They specialize in, modifications in cars and all that kind of neat stuff. You go out to SEMA show and see where they do all the crazy cars. And so they were a big one out there. And they were going to make it to where that could be part of my collegiate, education and stuff like that. Oh, just incredible stuff. And yeah, so I had already been some other places, and Ole Miss being one, and a few other places, and I ended up obviously choosing Ole Miss. And so the first year, we played Wyoming twice. Just so happens that we played Wyoming twice, my freshman and sophomore year, and they beat us twice.
No kidding.
They beat us one time at home, and they beat us one time at their house.
Huh.
And even after the first year, the coach said, hey, man, door's still open if you're interested. Now, at that time, things were different, right? If I had to go there, I'd have to sit out a year. It's not like the NIL stuff or the transfer portal or whatever. And so it was a little bit different. And I still was just in my old stubborn self. SEC, I wanted to be here, and all the things that were going on. And I still said no, and I rode out Ole Miss the rest of my career, but they beat us twice, and I've never received so much crap from my friends, my dad. Man, because Ole Miss didn't do so well after old Eli left, so. Yeah, man.
So, I mean, why did you end up turning that down? Because it seems like they were throwing everything at you. Like
immaturity.
Okay. I mean, well, what was the immature thought process? Is it because college football in the South is so much more prestigious than it is?
No, it
out
wasn't.
West,
It wasn't as much about football as it was about just the college of Ole Miss. You know, that campus, that nightlife, all the things going on at Ole Miss outside of football.
Yeah.
I was 18. I'm young and dumb, man. I'm not thinking at all. I'm just like, I want to, enjoy life. I want to have fun and this and that and the other. You go out to Laramie, there's not much going on there.
I've been there, yeah.
Right. So, and I had an incredible time out there. Really did. But it just, until you experience a game day at Ole Miss in the SEC and the Grove, you may not understand it completely.
Yeah, probably not, yeah. I know nothing about football.
Yeah. And so when you experience that, it's hard as a 18-year-old male athlete to turn that down. And I just wasn't thinking the way that I had been raised to think. I was just using immaturity and just young and dumb, and I turned it down. And the guy that they ended up bringing instead of me, I'm pretty sure he ended up getting, drafted into the pros. I would have played all 4 years, potentially 5, had they, and my career at Ole Miss basically went nowhere. Ended up getting hurt at one point when I had a small chance of actually doing something. Ended up getting hurt before it even happened. So, yeah, the regret of not taking advantage of that opportunity is strong. And it's a real hard pill that I seem to try to swallow daily to this day, because I can't imagine what my life would look like had I made that decision, because it would be so drastically different.
Yeah.
As far as an athletic career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially. Yeah. No, I get that, man, but as you know, every decision that you've made in your life has led you to the point that you're at today. And
that's right.
You are the man who you are today, helping people and doing the things that you're doing today because of the good and the bad decisions that you've made, man. So, so college football, again, I was honest. I know nothing about football.
No worries.
When you go to a school like that, I mean, I know nothing about football, but I still know about Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know college football in the South, and especially those schools, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. It's like, it's huge, man.
It is huge.
So, I mean, when you get accepted to this school and you choose to go, is this really about going to college, or is this about football? Like, what's it?
You go to college, it as an athlete, for the most part, and I can't speak for everybody, but for the most part, you're going to play football.
Okay. I've always wondered that.
You're going to play football. Now, you get your degree, and you have to, but let's be honest, you're going to play football, and you are helped along the way to get your degree. Yeah. Now, some athletes are studs, educationally, and, 4.0 GPAs and, go on to do things way bigger and better than football. I was definitely not one of those. I went there to play football. Now, I got my degree, but Bachelor of Arts, I took, graphic design classes and stuff like that. So I got a degree, but at the end of the day, no, it was there to play football.
I've always wondered that, man.
Yeah. And that's how it is for most that come through there. Even, the high level athletes, it's more of just a speed bump.
Yeah, because you have to have realistic expectations, and, to have someone who's so focused on playing that game, like you couldn't be that good and have all the schoolwork at the same time. You know what I mean?
There is definitely some help involved in getting guys through the educational port.
And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, You still, I mean, how often would you guys practice?
Oh, I mean, football is
How many hours a day?
well, you would only practice what 2, 3, 4 hours a day, but it's all the other stuff that you don't see. Like you got film, you got to be studying. Like I still have my book from the defense when I moved over to strong safety. I mean, it's a book that's this thick, front and back, of just plays, our defensive calls, and all the audibles and options and all this. I mean, it is insane.
You got to learn that.
You got to learn it, and it's got to be natural because things are constantly changing out there on that field and fast. And if you're not on top of it immediately, then they're gone. They're behind you and they're scoring. So it's impressive, getting to see I got to watch Eli Manning do his thing and listening to him and like his brother, Peyton, listening to them talk and with the way that they would break down defenses and how to go about, defeating them or leveraging weaknesses or whatever. It's literally like a second language. It's beautiful when you watch someone that's that proficient in it, do it and speak it, because you're just like, wow, I never would have seen that or thought of that. And it takes a lot of dedication to be truly, truly a master of that craft, to understand it to where when something happens, so one person moves here or this happens, it changes everything for the defensive side of the ball. And if it just doesn't happen naturally, you're already too slow.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I mean, me watching a football game, it just looks like a bunch of dudes out there just dogpiling each other. I have no idea of the strategy.
Oh yeah,
and the amount of thought and thinking that is happening out on the field in real time.
Yeah,
and I think that's why I can't appreciate the game.
Sure,
because I don't understand that.
Right. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. So how many years did you play at Ole Miss?
I was there for 4. I was there for 5 though.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you played for 4 years.
Yeah.
It's funny. Chili the other day, me and Chili were talking about you, and Chili was like, I don't even have to ask him what position he played. He was safety. I don't know how he knew that.
Right.
And Chili was like, I don't know what a safety is, but apparently Chili said you just go around the field looking for people to just plow over.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was recruited there as a wide receiver.
Okay.
So I was initially on the offensive side of the ball my first year. And it was in a spring game, and I got to go in. I'm just, this is right. This is it, right? This is all I've been working for. And so I got to go in, and I caught a pass coming across the middle, and Eric Oliver, who was the starting strong safety for us at the time, he's the senior. He's always been giving me a hard time since I got there. And so he knew I was coming across that center. So I was looking for him. As soon as I got that ball, he was no more than a foot or two away from me, and it was a violent impact. But just so happened I was ready for it because I knew it was coming. So I went down, but so did he, but he went down and had to go off the field. And apparently had, I don't know if it's true, but, some type of mild concussion, if you will.
Yeah.
Because he just may have hit me wrong. And after that spring game, they came up to me and asked me if I wanted to come over to the defensive side of the ball.
I'll be dang.
And so I came over and became a strong safety.
Huh.
Yeah.
So when did the injury happen?
All right. So this was my junior summer, right? So I've been working. I haven't really gotten any playing time. Just out there, just grinding. And one of our starting strong safeties got injured. And so the depth chart wasn't very deep where I was. And so the guy that was behind me was a true freshman, so he wasn't really there yet. And so they naturally kind of work you into special teams to kind of get you out there and, all right, well, if you're going to start being a part of this, whatever. So they put me on the kickoff cover team. And I'll never forget it, of course, because it, sent things the wrong way. But so I was on a kickoff team. We're in practice, just doing, regular kickoff stuff, kickoff coverage. And Dexter McCluster who ended up going into the league, playing for a good bit. Shifty little dude. Didn't weigh 150 pounds soaking wet, but was just lightning, right? Couldn't get your hands on him. And so I'm coming down. Now, I had put on a pretty substantial amount of weight at this point. They bulked me up. You know, I showed up there maybe 180 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm a solid 210.
Yeah, and you're slim build like me too.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot.
They put some muscle on me. Great program, great workout program and food program. So the problem is that my quads were capable of doing things that my hamstrings necessarily weren't capable of doing.
Yep.
So I'm coming down on this kickoff coverage, and I see Dexter. He's got the ball, and I'm one of the only ones that has a free path to him. So I'm coming to him, and I'm full bore because this is, I'm trying to make a name. I'm trying to make sure that I can cement my place so that I can start traveling with the team and start, getting into these positions. And he makes one cut, and I make that same cut. And as soon as I make that same cut and try to come out of it to where he's going to get him, bang, there it went, hamstring. I felt that thing just immediately pop, and they have it on film, and you just see me rolling across the ground.
Dang.
And I mean, I heard it, I felt it, and trainers come out and help me off, and I mean, sure enough, it wasn't a full tear, but it was a partial tear. So I didn't have to have surgery or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, it was all black and blue. I mean, just all up and down my hamstring. And, so I go in to start the recovery process, which, their facilities are incredible.
Yeah.
At that level. The medical staff is incredible. And so I'm going through it and doing all the things, trying to, rehab this thing because, out there I know that potentially I may have just lost all that I've been working for.
Yeah, for sure. Right?
Yeah. The hamstring is a pretty important piece of equipment.
And it's a big one too.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
So I'm trying, and, this time we have Coach Ed Ogeron is our head coach at this point. And we were, mid-season, and they were wanting to see if I could go. And so, I'd been going at this point for, 4 or 5, potentially 6 months at this point, about 5 months. And I hadn't really run on it yet, was scared to run on it because I knew if I injure this thing again, it's probably not going to do me very well for the rest of my career at this level. So we bandage it up and tape it up, and, I come out and I'm working through it for a few days, and I'm like, all right, it feels good, but I haven't gone anywhere near 100% yet. And as a strong safety, coming out of, a break and stuff like that, you're really relying heavily on that hamstring cutting and stuff like that. And so I go out to practice, and, I'm dropping back in coverage, working into it slowly. And I'm like, all right, it's time. Like, I got to figure out this because they're giving me a potential opportunity to go out there and play. And maybe not play, be on the depth chart to have that opportunity to cycle in. And so I go what I would consider 100%, and it gave way again. So after that season was over, I went to the head coach, and I was like, hey, man, I think I'd like to enjoy college for a little bit. And so for the last year, I've released myself from the team, no bad blood, and I went and enjoyed college for the last year I was there, and watched them. Football season comes around, and I mean, heck, I didn't know what to do with all the time I had.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So was that a hard decision for you, or like?
Of course. I mean,
did it like?
Yeah, I mean, because I was that close.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm there. Like, I've put in so much time and effort and working with these dudes and the training staff to get me there, and then for it to all just be taken away within a matter of seconds, then we're talking about not knowing it, but, a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
To lead
since 6th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is gone. And I knew there wasn't a chance because there was another guy there that had a hamstring injury who was a stud, and he just kind of faded off into the sunset. You just never saw him again.
I mean, I just don't see how you can take that at that age, like that big of a shift, and not fall into some depression or anger or like that transition just seems like it would be pretty debilitating.
Yeah, it was for a good while. I mean, and don't lie about it. I'm at Ole Miss. It's known for its parties at that time. I mean, it was ranked in, I don't know how they rank party schools, but it was in the top 5 for a while there. So I just kind of buried myself in enjoying college, like the way my roommates were enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah.
I had roommates that didn't play sports, so they respected me, and they would try to be quiet, and you come home at reasonable hours and stuff like this, because I'd be getting up at 5 a.m. to go work out and coming home, whatever. But, I remember the first day I was like, guys, what do you do?
Yeah.
Because, you don't go to class all day during college. They're like, well, we got this thing called happy hour. I said, well, I guess that's what we're doing now.
So yeah, and I would think that would be one of the most difficult parts about it is being for the first time in a long time, like not having this thing to focus on.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So it was, I did get into some martial arts. So, I just being competitive, after, some things squared away with that, I was able to get into some martial arts and kind of buried my head into that for a little bit, and enjoyed it, and did that for the rest of my time while I was at Ole Miss.
Okay. You said something a minute ago too, man, that I want to go back to. You talked about that injury, and you talked about how you were scared to go back to that 100% effort,
right? Because
you didn't know how that injury was going to respond to it. Like, you get to the point where, yeah, it's feeling better, but I still haven't pushed the way I know I can push, and so I think it's really cool that you're honest about that, because I don't think a lot of people are honest about that. When you have bad things happen to you in life,
right, it
can cower you.
Sure.
And you can potentially never recover from it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like I don't know, a lot of you guys listening probably don't know much about fighting roosters. But if you fight roosters, and one of the roosters, he can be the baddest cock on earth. But if he gets beat one time, he won't be the same the rest of his life.
That's right.
All it takes, and he can even make a full recovery, but he's just like mentally he never realizes it.
Yep.
And he gets beat one time, and he's not the same the rest of his life, man.
Yep.
And dude, I just relate to that so much, man. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can too, who have had a setback, who have made a big mistake, who have had an injury, and they find themselves years down the road never really attempting to go to the same level that they were going prior to that mistake or prior to that injury. I mean, it's just countless times in my life that's played into my reality, and we've never talked about it on the podcast before. But one of the biggest mistake I ever made in my career in the Navy, I got sidelined for 8 months, and I remember getting back into a platoon after that, and I remember one of my chiefs coming up to me and being like, "Hey, man, what happened in the past happened in the past. Don't freaking hold back, because that'll get you killed in that job." Right. But even I'm dealing with it right now with this injury with my leg.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with it right now, man. I'm scared to go 100%. That's why I didn't go to the tactical games the other weekend.
Yep.
It's like I knew if I was there, I knew I would go 100%. And I was afraid to do that because I don't know how it's going to respond.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with giving it time.
Sure.
But you know, you can't let that thing, whatever it is for you listening or watching, you can't let that cower you for the rest of your life.
Don't let it handicap you.
And I just love it how you were so honest about, I was afraid to push to that 100% again. But when it was time, you conquered that fear and you did it and it responded the way it responded.
Yep.
But at least you know.
Yeah.
At least you didn't just go on for the next 2 years just at 85%.
Right. No,
you know what I mean?
No, there's no way. I mean, you know, that's just not my mentality, right? If I can't go 100%, I'm going to figure out why and try to figure out a path to get back to that. And you know, there's just no way I would ever let that handicap my desire to go where I want to go or achieve the goals that I'm trying to achieve. Like, you can't do that. I mean, and that can apply to so many things in life. And it doesn't have to be a physical injury.
100%.
You know, it can be, you know,
it can be a mistake.
It can be a mistake. It can be mental.
Yeah.
You know, it can be things that happen in your past. Like if you allow that to handicap you and keep you from doing things or accomplishing things in your life because you're holding on to that baggage or that scar or whatever it may be, man, that's just not a good way to live.
No, man, and your mind's gonna creep in on you, especially at the age we are now. Like, I'm dealing with that right now, dude. Like, in real time. Like, your mind's gonna start creeping into you, and it's gonna start saying, "Well, Chadd, well, Kirt, you're just not as good as you were." That's exactly right. Like, you're not really gonna be able to go harder or faster or further than what you have already been. Your mind tries to tell you those things, man, especially when you're dealing with some setback or some injury.
Yeah.
And nobody ever talks about this, man, because nobody wants to be honest about the fact that, man, I'm scared to go back 100% right now.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
but it's like at some point you got to try it and see what happens.
100%. And you know, like I had that hip thing going on, right?
Yeah.
Man, it was terrifying. I thought, God, what have I done to myself? I couldn't even walk. I couldn't put a sock on my own foot. And that was 2 weeks out from this past tactical games. But, you know, you figure out, all right, what's going on? How can I remedy this situation? What do I need to do so that I can get back to where I need to be? Don't use that as a crutch, right? Don't use it as an excuse. Okay, I've got this roadblock. How do I deal with it? And, you know, I found ways to deal with it, and luckily it cleared itself up. Mm-hmm. And I went out and handled business at the tactical.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's just, I had to touch on that because I've never talked about it on the podcast before and never really unpacked that. But I think it's something that so many people are currently dealing with right now. Absolutely. You know. But to get back on track, man.
Sure.
So that last year, you just leaned into
I was having a great time,
college.
Okay. I mean, you know, it's like you go to the Grove. So I say when I talk about the Grove at Ole Miss, it's about a 12-acre field, not a field, but 12-acre space. And, you know, it's beautiful, maintained, monster trees. And it's where everybody, when you go to a game at Ole Miss, that's where everybody goes. They put up the tents and they have the food catered. They have chandeliers in these things. I mean, is.
Dude, you need to take me to one of those one
We
day.
need to go to one.
That would be cool.
You know, I haven't been back since I left. So it's something that's on the list, and, you know, I'd love to take my wife as well. So it's an experience. It's a really cool experience. So you go out there, and for these games, they have what's called the Walk of Champions. And the team, we always met up in the building, and the team will walk through the Grove to the stadium. So they go through all the, you know, the crowd and the fans and all that kind of stuff, get you fired up. So I got to make that walk, right? But my last year, I was in the Grove. And so I got to watch the team and, you know, my friends, you know, make the walk. And it was tough, man. It was tough watching them because I was like, I should be.
I can't imagine, dude.
In that walk.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
So, I mean, and I stood at the very end of the walk where the crowd kind of fanned out and, you know, shook hands with everybody. And how you boys doing, man?
Wow.
Let's go out there and get after it, yeah.
So after that last year of school, you leave college. I know nothing about that period of your life.
Yeah.
Like, never heard you talk about it.
Right.
I know at some point you learned how to be a chef, apparently.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, where did you go from there,
Oh, man. So I went all over the place. I was kind of a lost little soul. But, yeah, so I was at Ole Miss. And, you know, bless my mom's heart. Love her to death. But she is a terrible cook. Okay? We'll just put that out there. And she knows that. She tried her best. But if it didn't require putting your numbers into a microwave, it wasn't really that good. So and maybe that's what spurred me. So I ended up going to culinary school straight out of college.
No kidding, man.
Yeah.
In Mississippi?
No, I came back to Atlanta. I wanted to come back to Georgia. I wanted to come back near home and move into Atlanta. And I went to Le Cordon Bleu Culinary School. Over there in Atlanta.
How did you decide? Did you literally decide that because your mom was not a good cook?
I don't know. I guess
that's wild,
man.
Is.
Well, okay. You know, I'll give you a little tidbit, and you know, people that really, really know me will really appreciate this and find this funny. But so one Christmas, and maybe it was just an innate desire in me to cook, but I asked for a easy bake oven. Now that was not necessarily marketed towards men. Boys at that point.
Yeah.
But I wanted that.
So this was as a child?
This was as a child. This was as a child. I wanted that easy bake oven. So
interesting.
I've always enjoyed cooking and creating things, and I'm sure they were absolutely terrible when I was younger, but I thought they were the best thing ever. So I just kind of always enjoyed it. And, you know, when I was in college, I'm living on my own. I enjoyed cooking, and I enjoyed eating good food. I appreciated food. And well-prepared food, and, you know, chefs that really understood their craft. I always had an appreciation for that for some reason. And, you know, at that point, you know, like I said, I went to college to play football, right? So I hadn't really set myself up for a career path after that. So I kind of had to figure out a path. And, you know, I'll never forget it. I actually saw a commercial for Le Cordon Bleu while I was at Ole Miss. And it was towards the end of before I was getting to graduate. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to culinary school. I'm going to go become a chef. Why not? And so that's what I did. And I went to Le Cordon Bleu. And while I was at Le Cordon Bleu, there was a new restaurant opening in Atlanta called Kraft. Chef, you know, famous chef. He's on Top Chef. Tom Colicchio. It was his restaurant, and he's got a few of them across the country. Does really well. A great chef. And I had a good friend of mine that didn't know Tom, but he knew the owner of, you know, the manager of the restaurant. And my dad kind of connected us. And he was kind of getting me in the doors because it's a very competitive world in the chef world at the high level. Mm-hmm. Because you're trying to build those resumes. So you're like, hey, look, I worked here. This is why you should hire me.
Yeah.
That type stuff. And so I showed up to Kraft. I was all of, you know, maybe a few months into culinary school. So was not very experienced. And it sure as heck never been anywhere near a kitchen of this level. We're talking high-end dining. And I showed up and did what's called a stage. Which basically you work for free for a night. You go in, they just kind of put you somewhere and allow you to work, and they kind of, you know, watch you or pay attention to what you're doing and just kind of evaluate you and see if, you know, they actually are interested in giving you a job. So I didn't really expect much. I was just more or less just trying to get my feet wet and kind of see things out and go do it. And I'd done that at a few other spots around Atlanta. But this was by far the most prestigious one. And at the end of the night, the head chef, Kevin Maxey, he offered me a job. And I was like, what? I was like, he said, the guys that I was working with all had 10 plus years of chef experience.
And had you hadn't even graduated from this program yet?
Oh no, I'm maybe even not even halfway through.
Wow. The
culinary program at Le Cordon Bleu. So I go back the next day to the school and I talked to some of the instructors I'm like, hey, I took a job at Kraft. I got offered a job at Kraft last night for full time, and they only did dinners. And they were like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm trying to figure out what to do."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "You need to withdraw from this school, and you need to go take that job because you will learn more than we can ever teach you here.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you'll get paid for it. You're paying us right now." Because the things that you will learn, and they were dead on, because the people that I was around, the level of talent in that kitchen, especially the prep cooks, the cooks that you don't ever see or hear about, the guys that they had down in what we called the dungeon, because it was underneath ground literally, but it was a beautiful prep kitchen. It was incredible. I'd never seen anything like it. The amount of stuff, I mean, the first day I came in, they had a 600, or yeah, it was close to, I think it was around a 600-pound halibut on the table.
Holy crow, man.
Just a monster of a halibut. And then he said, "You ever seen it?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Well, here, stand right here. I'm going to show you how we break this down."
Wow, dude.
You know, incredible. Like we did a pig a few days after that, where we did a pig tasting, and you got to taste each part of the pig, and we prepared each part differently. You know, learning about all the, you know, different types of mushrooms and grains and sauces and techniques and all this kind of stuff and things that I mean, it was incredible.
Were you ever able to decipher or ask that guy why he gave you a job after?
I mean, I just had a knack for it.
Okay.
Did
you know you had a knack for it?
I kind of like when I would touch food, it would work. I understood what was going on. I understood seasoning and taste, and I understood the base, because really cooking, it really comes down to a few basic principles and understanding those principles very well. And then they kind of branch out from there, and you got some offshoot techniques and some random things like sous vide and some other stuff. But, you know, there's a few basic principles in cooking. As long as you understand those and can execute those well, you can do, and then you can just perfect them and learn different ways of doing those things. You know, it's not that challenging. But it made sense to me. And I loved the pressure, right? I'm a competitor.
Yeah.
And unless you've ever been into one of those types of kitchen, I'm talking about a high-end, fast-paced kitchen. You know, most kitchens, you know, there's a few dudes on the line. They have a ticket come out, and they can all read the ticket, and, you know, okay, I'm doing this or that. At this level, you have one guy up at the front, you know, who's the sous chef, and he's running the whole line, and you have stations, right? Now, he'll call the ticket out, the whole ticket, and it is up to me and to hear everything that I'm responsible for. Remember it. Now, that's just one ticket. There could be 20 on the board. So I've got to remember that, and I've got to time it with the meat station.
Holy crap, man.
The fish station, the veg, right? I got to know if there's appetizers coming out. I need to know if there's a certain thing that they ordered from my station that takes a little bit longer. Like, and I don't have a ticket to look at.
Yeah.
Now, I can go to the board real quick if I need to, but it's all based off memory. It's wild. And the pace that you move at, it's banana land. It is the most insane controlled chaos I've ever seen in that type of atmosphere.
Wow, man. Dude, no wonder you don't have any trouble remembering stages at the tactical games.
Yeah, that's a walk in the park. But it's nuts, man. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but it was a bit much. And then, you know,
I mean, you'd have to be exhausted at the end of a shift.
Man, talking about wore out, buddy.
And what were you doing, like, for fun during those years?
I mean, just hanging out with my friends. You know, we'd go to bars, go to clubs. It's ATL, man. Back then, it was hot Atlanta.
Were you living in Atlanta?
I was living in it.
Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
Dang.
I was down in the beast, man.
Okay.
Have no interest in going back.
Yeah.
But while I was there, it was I had a good time. You know, I've got a lot of great friends in Atlanta, still to this day, keep up with them very regularly, still see them regularly, still like to go down there because it does have a lot of great food. But I much enjoy all the other things that are going on in that place.
So how long were you there doing that job?
Not very long. I lasted, I want to say it was a couple of months I was in that place. And the reason why I got out, number one, I was getting burned out because the head chef he's a great chef. And he's done very well for himself to this day, still in Atlanta, has done very well, still has multiple restaurants from my understanding. But it was not very enjoyable to work underneath him at that time and point in his career. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty miserable. And that was that feeling was mutual across all the other chefs that were there with us. Yeah. He was pretty hard. It was pretty challenging. And that restaurant's no longer there either. It didn't last much longer after I left. It kind of fell through the bottom. I think the management and some other factors weren't doing good because the food was incredible.
Yeah, you can have the best product in the world, and if you have terrible leaders and terrible managers,
it don't matter.
It don't matter. It really doesn't.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's no longer there. I think Del Frisco or Del Monaco or some type of steak restaurants there now.
So leaving there, what happens next?
Yeah, so I'm still in Atlanta, and you know, so I went all over the place. I did insurance adjusting, where you're going out and adjusting insurance claims. I did pharmaceutical sales. You know, I have a good close family friend here in Rome that gave me an opportunity to have the Atlanta territory, which is an absolute shark tank of a territory for pharmaceutical sales. So I did that, you know, for a good while. I started my own business with some friends, a document security business, you know, shredding documents and digital storage and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I did a whole bunch of good stuff.
No kidding, dude. Yeah. I had no idea that you did all that.
Oh, yeah. I bounced around a good bit. Just, you know, I think we've had this discussion. It's, you know, it was never so much about chasing the money. Money's necessary, right? And money's good. We like money, but I just was never truly enjoying what I was doing, right? I was doing well, was successful in the things that I was doing, but I never really, you know, my dad always told me, you know, it's like you got to be, at the end of the night, you got to lay your head on the pillow and be happy about what you did that day and be looking forward to what you got coming the next day.
Yeah,
right?
Man.
And I just wasn't there. You know, I'd be dreading, oh, God, I got to go do this or whatever. So, you know, bounced all over the place, did this, that, and the other. And then by that time, I ended up going down to Florida for a little bit. Funny story. Went down to Florida after I'd done all that stuff, and that's years and years, because I did each one of those things for a year or two or more.
Okay.
So, yeah, I didn't just jump in it for a month or go out. And I did some other chef stuff as well in there. I would jump in because I was just so comfortable in that world.
And that's still something you're passionate about. It sounds like it's not something you wanted to do for a living.
No. So, but, you know, that's where I get to where I went down to Florida. So I go down to Florida and in Destin, and I'm staying down there. And a good buddy of mine's like, hey, man, I was like, they're opening a restaurant here, and they're looking for a chef. I was like, I was looking for work, you know, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to do. I was like, all right, you know, I'm comfortable in that space. I don't have to learn anything new, really. And
yeah.
I can jump in, and I know I can be comfortable, and I'll just learn the systems or whatever. And so I go, and I kind of tell them my background and where I've been. They're like, come on in. Like, we'd love to have you. And so they had already hired a head chef. So they wanted me to be the sous chef of this place. And funny enough, it was called Craft Bar.
I'll be dang.
Right. So it's called Craft Bar down in Destin, still there to this day. And he's got a few of them, actually. It's attached to a liquor store. And so, yeah, but I was doing that, and then the head chef quit about maybe a month in, maybe. And this was I helped set up the kitchen. It was brand new. So he quit, and they offered me the head chef job. So I was running the place, enjoying it, having a fun time. But the problem with the restaurant industry, and it may not be everywhere, and it's not everywhere, at least not at the high end, is that the people that you are hiring and working with and have access to, there's no real barrier to entry in that world.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, a lot of times you're dealing with people that are just going from job to job to job, looking for a paycheck. They're not passionate about the food.
Yeah.
And I was passionate about the food because at this point I'm the head chef, and a lot of these things, these recipes and dishes I'm helping develop or working on or creating myself and stuff like that. And so I was passionate about it. And so very rarely would you ever find anyone that was actually willing to do everything that it would take to put out a good product.
And that would get real frustrating, I'm sure.
Man, it's tough.
Yeah.
And because, you turn your back, and I'm like, all right, so this is how we're going to prepare these. Here's the steps. I'll lay it out for you. This is, things I'm taking from craft, the original craft, that I've learned how to do this at a very high level so that you can make this particular ingredient shine or make this dish incredible or flavor, whatever. And they would then proceed to figure out how they could cut corners. Because it takes a lot of work and prep work to do all these little steps to get to the end product. But all those little bitty steps add up to the best product you can get at the end. Now, you can still get to the end product, and it's still going to be what some people might consider okay. But it's not to the level of my standards.
That it could be. Yeah.
It could be. And so those shortcuts constantly. How can I? And
so that was just driving you nuts?
Oh, it was driving me nuts. And then, you'd have to deal with, the alcoholism and the drug use and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Guys,
it's huge in that industry,
it's
man.
Huge. It's bad. I've got a buddy that's going through it right now, and he's reached out to me, and it's just that industry. It is a brutal industry. You work when no one else is working.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I had a guy come in just straight hammered drunk, and I knew it obviously when he was coming in. I could smell it. And he'd be like, I'm going to go on a smoke break real quick. And I follow him outside, and I go to his car, and he's just pouring down a handle of Jack Daniels down his throat. And I'm like, brother, what are you doing? Come on, man. And it's just, that's what you had to deal with.
So what was the breaking point for you there? You've made a pretty big commitment. You've moved all the way to freaking Destin, Florida.
I know, right? Well, so I moved there temporarily. It wasn't so much a permanent move. It was kind of a getaway move for me. I wanted to get away from Atlanta.
Yeah.
I had some things going on that, I wanted to get away from. And so I moved down there. So the move down there wasn't necessarily to be permanent, but, getting into that job, I was like, oh, man, I'm getting paid well. It's a good restaurant. They're doing good things. I enjoy it because I can be creative. But, man, I was tired of being a professional babysitter. That's what I was. Everybody's got problems, and I got to deal with them. And all, the food cutting corners or this, that, and the other. How can I still get to this without having to do all that? And just the laziness and lack of desire. Like I just, is it 2 weeks yet? I get my paycheck yet?
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, I think it was around Thanksgiving or something like that. I was like, look, Gary, he was the manager at the time. I said, look, man, I just don't think this is going to work out for me anymore, buddy. I said, I'll give you all the time you need in the world to find a replacement. And he's like, don't worry, we already got one. I was like, awesome. And to this day, it's still there, still doing well, still got a lot of the same menu items that I help work on. And I enjoy going by there. I think there's a manager still there that I know. It's always fun to go back by because the drink program there was incredible. So that was one thing I really did enjoy is like the guy that they had there when I was there was an actual mixologist. And he loved it. And he was passionate about it like I was the food. So we would come together. He'd bring me back a drink. He'd be like, hey man, what can we pair with this? I'd, sip on it, taste it. I got you. And I would put together a dish or something like that. And we did dinners and tasting menus and stuff like that. And he would make the drinks and I would make the food. And it was great. It was fun. But yeah, it was time for me I just got tired of dealing with the professional babysitter aspect of being a head chef and that level of kitchen. So yeah, I moved on from it and then I came back to Rome.
Back to Rome,
man. Back to the homeland.
Full circle.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so what? I'm back at Rome trying to figure out what am I doing, Here we are. I'm back.
When you come back to Rome, where do you live?
I'm back to the parents' house.
Okay.
Yeah. I went back to the casa, kicked that door open. Hi, I'm back.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, I'm early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably about, maybe 31, something like that.
Okay.
And, just trying to figure out what to do with my life in general. It's kind of at that crisis point. Like I've tried so much, never really enjoyed this or that. I got back into insurance adjusting for a little bit because I had a good friend that has a relationship down in Atlanta with a big firm that I'm good friends with. I did that at the house because I could do it remote. And so I did that while I was at home, but eventually it got to the point to where I was getting pretty frustrated with myself because I didn't really have a path.
Yeah.
And obvious frustration from my father and my parents because I'm sure as heck they didn't want me. I know they enjoyed me being back home, but,
Well, at this point, it sounds like it's been quite a while before you really had something like in stone, like,
oh yeah,
this is it, man.
Yeah. No, I hadn't had anything
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's not a good place to be for guys like me and you, man.
No, it's not.
No,
Not at all.
We can become very destructive.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Luckily, the fitness aspect of my life had always been constant. When I lived in Atlanta, even as a chef, which was very challenging, I always found time to get it in at the gym.
Yeah.
I always appreciated hard work in the gym. And, I had buddies that would go with me and I'd whip them in shape and it was fun. So that had always been a true constant in my life. And so when I got back to Rome, I found CrossFit Rome. Because at that point, when I left Rome, CrossFit Rome wasn't here. CrossFit was still in its infancy.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it's when I found CrossFit. And so I dove head in first to that and, tried to be competitive at it. Even went out to Arizona for a few months and lived out in Scottsdale and trained at this place called OPEX to try to see if I had what it takes to, be a competitive CrossFit athlete. And, out there I got to rub shoulders with some games athletes and stuff like that. And they, next level stuff, man. It's almost kind of like showing up at the SEC again.
Yeah.
It's
I bet.
like, here we go. I thought I was in shape.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
That's kind of how I felt the first couple times I trained with you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, shoot. Well, you can ask, Glenn Getchell, big, buddy of mine over at CrossFit Rome.
Likewise. Just take a moment. Glenn's been on the podcast.
Oh.
That is a man.
Incredible, man.
He is a man.
Yes, he is.
All right?
Yeah. That dude's incredible.
Yeah. I just, when you mention that name, you just have to take a pause to say that's a man right there.
And that family as well. But he was, Coach Getchell coached me in football in high school. So that's how I know his family, all, early days. So we go way back. And I remember my first workout at CrossFit Rome. This is before they had any type of on-ramp or any type of welcome intro to this or that. And he took me in the back in the dungeon, which is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of wrote down the workout that we were about to do. And I was like, all right, cool. I was strong, somewhat fit individual. I was working out at Velocity at the time. which is that gym that's not too far from CrossFit
Yeah.
Room. And we did this workout, and I promise you, I'd about daggum near died. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that point, he almost might have been, he was in his late 40s at that point. Yeah. And he crushed me. Absolutely crushed my soul. And I just loved it right then. I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you start back hunting again when you moved back to
Oh,
Rome? Because I've scrolled back through some of your old Instagram posts, and it looks like there was a period of your life where that was a huge part of your life. Like I saw a lot of posts about you getting out and hunt whitetail, elk, the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah, that's always anytime I could come back to Rome, and I always tried to time it when it was season.
Yeah,
deer hunting season in the fall. I'm in that stand.
I was surprised to see how I didn't know that you were so into that, into hunting, because so you talked about your fitness being the standard that's been there throughout your whole life. Hunting has been that for me.
Yeah.
That's been the one thing in my life that has lasted since I rode on my uncle's shoulders down to the first tree that a coon dog had treed a coon on. It's like from that point, that's been the thing that stayed with me through my whole life. And when I saw that was such a huge passion of yours, it surprised me, because it's not something that you do a lot of anymore. It doesn't seem like. But
well, I mean, even when I lived in Atlanta, I would come back.
You would still come back.
Oh
and hunt.
yeah, absolutely. I'd come back during the season. I mean, my girlfriend at the time, I brought her back, introduced her to it. So it was, I always tried to make time to come hunt, because, something about, and this, I mean, something about getting out in those woods, and it's nothing but you in those woods, and it's just quiet.
Yeah, man.
It is a place of peace.
It is.
And you can just shut off, and it's just you in those woods, and hopefully a deer or two.
Yeah.
And it is a place to go out and just kind of turn the world off. Leave everything else behind you, your phone, whatnot, and just forget about it. And I needed that from time to time.
I have too, man, so much. Yeah. And when you really get into it, and you want to start taking some nice bucks or nice animals, there's a lot of strategy. There's a real craft behind it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something I've always kind of had a knack for, deer in particular.
Yeah.
But that was cool. We'll have to do some hunting this season together.
Oh, yeah.
I hope we're able to get out and share that experience together.
For sure. We'll definitely make that happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So back in Rome, getting into CrossFit, thinking you might want to be competitive there.
Right.
I mean, at what point does the military enter your mind?
Yeah. So it had always kind of creeped in and out of my life at certain points.
Yeah.
After, this is after college. It definitely was never there before college or anything like that. But I always kept getting opportunities to go do something new. And like I said, I was successful at all the things for the most part that I did. And so it wasn't until I got back to Rome and I was kind of like, all right, where am I going? What do I want to do? I want to take advantage of the skills and talents that I have. Obviously athletics at this point, for the most part, were kind of off the table, and that was until, tactical games kind of stuff started showing up in CrossFit. But, so I had considered it. And so I started, and I went to they call it, like a selection-esque type, weekend put on by like Fieldcraft Survival.
Yeah.
I remember doing something like that, and, going to these events, and I was like, you know what? I have a knack and an enjoyment for suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I like pushing myself and seeing how far I can go, and I enjoy the suffer. Right?
You truly do enjoy it. I've seen you.
Yeah.
I've seen you. I mean, just like, we'll be doing something stupid like burpee box get-overs, and I'm like literally redlining, like to the point that, where your stomach hurts, where it's just, And you're over there just freaking loving it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, he's really loving this feeling.
It's weird. I can't
it is.
understand
It's a unique thing because I can suffer at a high level.
Right.
And I don't mind it. I can tolerate it, but
I seek it.
Yeah, you really like it, man.
Yeah. I seek it. It's a very, and a lot of my friends hate it because I'm all about trying to do things that are the hard way or whatever. But so initially I had a buddy of mine, Noah Landerlin. I'm not sure if you ever met him, but he was at CrossFit for a little bit. Former PJ for the Air Force. And so I had some discussions with him, and I was like, you know what? I said, I want to do something like that. I want to go out and test myself against the best. See if I have what it takes, at my current age. Because, at that point, at 32, 33 years old, you're kind of on the older end-ish of the spectrum.
Oh, no, you're on the very end of the spectrum. Like
so
30 years old at Buds, you have to have a waiver.
Yeah, right.
To get in. Anything over 29, you have to have a waiver.
Yeah. So
and none of those guys make it.
Right. So I knew, and I think it's 35 for SF.
Okay.
And so, I went through some other little programs that, some former SF guys or PJs put on and did this and that and did well and had fun. And I went to one that a PJ put on up in Asheville, North Carolina. And we got to the pool because the PJs do a lot of stuff in the pool.
Yeah.
And just like you guys as well. And
the PJs do everything.
Everything.
Including cut people open and save their lives.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that little weekend, he pulled me aside. He's like, look, man, he goes, you got it on land. Water, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
I sink like a rock.
Yeah.
In water. Not scared of the water. Would do all the, what are the drills where you're jumping in with your hands behind your back.
Drown proofing.
Yeah, drown proofing, all that kind of, didn't bother me. But when it came to swimming or, just like bobbing where you do the bob and stuff like that, I'd take a full breath of air and just.
Yeah, I knew some guys like
just
that,
right
man.
to the bottom. I was just negatively buoyant. I just could not float. And so anytime I was swimming like this.
Yep. Slow as
just
crap.
Slow and just fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was like, all right. And another guy that happened to be there was a GB. He goes, I'm telling you right now, he goes, you should consider going to selection and see if you can become a GB. And once I looked into it, I was like, yep, that's it. And once I read about it and kind of what they do and the whole concept behind being a GB and what it's all about and their mission sets and the pipeline and all that kind of stuff. So at the young age of 33,
that's insane, dude.
I called up the one closest to me and said, hey man, I want to give this a run. And you go out and you do a tryout, and it's basically a little mini selection that they put on. And I got picked up and then went to basic, and I was basically everyone's granddad at basic.
Yeah. Where did you go?
Fort Benning.
Okay.
Yeah. That was quite an experience.
Oh, dude. Freaking Navy boot camp. Dude, I don't know what y'all do. I mean, I'm sure it's different for the Army, but in the Navy, like, literally all you do is learn how to fold clothes, wear uniforms, and make your bed. Like, this is stupidest crap, man.
It is. The hardest part, I mean, now physically it was tough for me because I was going, so I knew I was going in, but I knew after that I was going to selection. So
you had the contract.
Right.
In your contract, you had a guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
So
the Navy does that too.
It's called the 18 X-ray program.
Yeah.
I think for, the Guard, it's called Rep 63 or something like that. So, yeah. So I was training like I'm going to selection before I went into basic.
Mm-hmm. So you get less fit in basic training. Yeah.
My man, I came out of basic and it looked like I'd just been getting my butt whooped, malnourished. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I looked awful. I felt awful. I remember the first day I stepped back foot in the CrossFit gym to try and do a workout. I mean, I may have made it halfway through that workout before I was just like, I literally am dying. I've got nothing. I mean, if you go pull back my PT card, because you have to take PT tests throughout basic, first one maxed it out. Most you could get on everything, run, push-ups, pull, whatever. By the end of it, I'm holding on to a passing score.
Yeah, man. I totally get that, man.
I mean, holding on to it for dear life.
The same thing happens to guys that get a SEAL contract. You know, we pass the physical standards test to get the SEAL contract, and then you have to pass it in boot camp once you're a few weeks in.
Yeah.
To actually solidify the contract. Well, you know, you have to literally be blowing that test out of the water.
Oh, yeah.
Because by the time you get a few weeks into boot camp and you're eating that nasty freaking food and everybody's sick and, you know, they've pulled your dang wisdom teeth out and you're just feeling like
the shots,
mashed up butthole, then you got to pass that PST. So, like, if you're, like, crushing it before you go in, you might barely pass it when you actually have to take it when it counts.
That's
you
right.
know?
Yeah. It was brutal, man. It was absolutely brutal. So, yeah. Got through that, and I mean, I was older than all my drill sergeants.
So you understand, you entered the Army like at the same age my career in the Navy was ending.
Right.
Yeah, that's really wild to me, man. I don't know if people can understand that or not, because I'm not sitting here trying to pull the old man card, but the reality is, dude, at 19, 20 years old, I mean,
bounce back.
You could beat me to a freaking pulp and give me 4 hours of sleep.
Yep.
I wake up the next morning, I'm not even sore.
That's right. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that wasn't so much the case anymore. And we didn't get any foam rollers. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a unique experience because, I mean, I had to do a lot of mentoring in my platoon.
Well, yeah, because you have the maturity. I mean, that would be the one advantage.
That's the advantage.
I've thought about that many times. Like, man, you know, how much more could I have done with my career if I would have went in at 30, 31, 32 years old? Because I wasted so much time. I grew up in the SEAL teams. Right. That's when that was my growing up.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the huge advantage to it.
Huge advantage. I mean, we had, you know, I mean, it was a eye-opening experience, to say the least, to see, because I was in a lot of the guys that are, you know, have that contract that are going through, that are going to selection. They kind of all put you in the same infantry class.
Yep.
And so you are kind of with like-minded or physically abled people, so you can kind of build off each other. I didn't get that. I was in an 11 Bravo basic.
Gotcha.
There was two of us, and I was the only one in my platoon. There was another guy in another platoon that also was going. So all the other dudes were going to be 11 Bravos, and that's it. Like, after they are done at Benning, that's all the training that they're really ever going to see, unless they get some specialized stuff at their unit or whatever. But so, I mean, the level of, you know, basically kids that I was around was wild.
Oh, I bet it was, man.
To see, like, these are the dudes, you know, these are the soldiers that we're preparing to go out there.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening, to say the least. So, but yeah, but I made it through. Got through that, luckily, almost. I think I'll definitely left part of me in that place, that's for sure.
I've heard Benning is a terrible place, man. I just heard horror stories from back when they used to send team guys to the static line jump school down there.
Oh, airborne's the worst, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've heard it's rough, son.
It's all, well, so typically you go from basic training to airborne, then to selection. So okay. I went from basic to selection, then airborne. Just how it worked out for whatever reason. But, man, airborne, that is, you know, it's a special school.
That's what I've heard.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. At what point did you meet your wife? Has this happened yet?
So this has happened.
You've met your wife before you joined? I've
joined because we had this conversation. I'll never forget it. We went on our first date. We went on a walk at Beret. Mm-hmm. We went out to the lake and walked around and stuff. And I remember I said, look, I said, this is on my radar. I said, I'm pretty serious about it. It's not for certain because I haven't made any real commitments to it yet. But I said, I just want you to know. because I think that's fair to you let your wife know that this is the world that you're about to enter, especially if you go to the next levels. It changes things.
Yeah.
So especially for when you're at home, or she's at home. So yeah, I had met her prior to this. Yeah,
but not married.
Not married.
Okay,
we hadn't gotten married yet.
I just mentioned that, listeners, if you don't know, Kirt's wife is also a very special lady that is a part of our lives. So I don't want to skip over that.
Yeah,
but.
We'll come back.
So talk to me about going to selection, because I don't know much about that pipeline. Like,
right.
What is, first of all, was it what you expected it to be?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely, it checked all the boxes on what I thought it was going to be. Now, I prepared myself for it relentlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Being the person that I am, like I go hard. I put on a lot of miles rucking. I knew that's how GBs are born, with our ruck on our back, right? So, I mean, I can't tell you how many miles I rucked out at Beret. And so I prepared relentlessly for that, those 3 weeks. So it wasn't as physically challenging as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was still very, very difficult just because of all the components of it. And there are just certain aspects of it that you can't prepare for.
Yeah.
And which I think makes it special. But it definitely challenged me in a lot of ways. But I had prepared well for it. And I think that made a big difference.
What are the phases? How's it broken down?
It's basically broken down into it's 3 weeks, and it's week to week. Each week is basically a different phase.
Okay.
So the first phase is you're basically kind of going through all your PT tests and the obstacle courses and rucks and runs and things of that nature, and interviews, or anything you can do initially. So all the kind of the standard measurements,
mm-hmm.
if you will, to making sure that you're meeting the physical requirements and some of the mental requirements, because there are tests, written tests and stuff of that nature. So you're doing all that kind of stuff, and and at any point, you don't meet the standard, you're gone.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And I imagine you can drop on request too. It's voluntary.
Oh, yeah. So absolutely. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to send you home at any time. Yeah. So yeah, that first week is more kind of just physical stuff, and some testing and whatnot. And then you've got the second week, which is land nav. That's a big one. That's where you lose a lot of people right there. That course is no joke. It is very challenging. And if you are not squared away on land nav, as well as just having the confidence in your land nav, because mm-hmm. that's what I think gets a lot of people, is they don't have true confidence in what they are doing and the plots that they're laying out and the azimuths that they're shooting and the routes that they're taking and all that stuff. Because I got turned around at one point.
Yeah. Is it done in the mountains?
No, so it's done. Everything is pretty much done out near Fort Bragg. So it's out kind of Camp McCall.
Okay, so you just have some smaller terrain features and stuff?
Yeah, so the terrain features that eat you alive out there are the draws.
Okay.
So the draws are legendary out there. They will eat you up and spit you out, and things have gone in there and never come out, mm-hmm. type stuff. They are epic, and I did everything I could to avoid them, which is possible. It just takes more time.
Yeah. So are you doing mostly in that environment? I imagine you got pretty dense wood. So is it mostly dead reckoning?
So you there's a combination of stuff. You use a combination of multiple methods, if you're smart, because you can do some dead reckoning, but there are times where you need to make sure you have your good plots, your backstops, you have your azimuths, and you have all, your pace counts and all these types of things.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to have all this stuff kind of dialed in, and it kind of comes to, like, some people just do one. I was kind of a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of terrain association.
Yeah. And
it's hard to terrain associate out because the terrain features aren't that great.
Yeah, that's what make it tough. And you have so many trees in the southeast. It's like the big block, the hardest block of land nav for us was on Kodiak Island in Alaska, and big long range movement, about a week, like you're talking about.
Right.
But there was no tree cover. I mean, there were little patches of forest, but I mean, I never took my compass out.
Yeah.
I just terrain associated the entire route.
No, you're definitely going to use your compass at ours. I mean,
so what makes it so difficult? Because I hear it's obviously a legendary course.
Yeah.
I mean, no Green Beret is going to talk about this selection without talking about this land nav course.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's all the components combined. I mean, the land, the terrain itself, like I said, the draws, it's just the whole area is covered in draws. And, you know, there's certain rules in place that you have to abide by. Obviously, at this point, you've already been through a week, you know, and you only get to eat MREs the whole time you're there. You know, the constant mental fatigue, you know, sleep deprivation and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's starting to kick in, right? You know, so you're doing it at night. You start at night, right?
That's tough, man.
And you can't move with any light. So you have zero light.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really good, really, really good at timing it so that it's a new moon, AKA no moon.
Yeah.
And so that means you know, like if you go out at night sometimes and the moon's out, you can see.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you let your eyes adjust, you can see. When there ain't no moon out, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, for me, I was kind of going when it was starting to get cold. A winter storm blew in. The morning I woke up to start the star course, a winter storm had blown in. Now, we don't know that. We don't have phones. They don't tell us anything. I will never forget. I went to bed that night. I had my summer bivvy out. That's all I had. Just a little cover over, and we were all huddled up together. I woke up at about 2 a.m., and I was freezing cold. I'm talking about I could see my breath. I looked at my butt. I said, dude, what happened? I was like, and I mean, when we got done with selection, I went back and looked, and sure enough, that's when that winter storm had come through Rome and come up all through here. So I remember waking up to start the star course, and I remember literally, I put my hand in front of my face, and I couldn't see my hand. It was that dark because there was no stars, no moon, nothing, and it was drizzling a little bit.
Dang, dude.
It was. I kind of laughed actually. I was like, this is nuts.
How am I supposed to freaking navigate in this, man?
You know, I've got 70 pounds on my back. You know, I can't use light.
Yeah.
And
did you do you guys when you need to reference the map, do you have to pull the tarp over you?
Yeah, you got to pull.
And you have really super light discipline.
You got a red light. That's all you can use.
I remember doing that, man.
Oh, yeah. You can't be anywhere near a road.
And you don't have nods at this point.
No, oh, God. No.
Yeah.
No, that would be too easy right there. No,
I remember those days, dude.
It was special, man. I mean, my first movement, it took me daggum forever. And you know, the point sitters, sometimes they're in your favor and sometimes they're not. You know, my first guy, he was in the middle of a draw. I'll never forget it. This draw split out, and he was sitting right in the middle of it, and I could not find him. I circled him for like an hour.
Dang, man.
Trying to find this guy. He had a small little tent that was camouflaged, sitting in the middle of it, and they have a chem light up, but his chem light happened to be on the backside of a tree. And I mean, it was special. When I finally found that guy, I mean, I had blood all over my face fighting these thorns, getting through these draws. I mean, my clothes were all ripped to shreds. I mean, and that was just the first one. I had 8 more to go, you know, so it was special. That's for sure. But yeah, so you do land nav, and that's probably, I would say it's probably where you lose the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you losing guys performance, percentage wise, how performance versus dropping on request?
It's probably not as many dropping on request as that they weren't able to get as many points as they were supposed to.
Okay.
Right. Or they got roadkill because they were trying to, maybe cheat a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're wearing dog collars so they can see you on GPS.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah. They can see what you're doing. And that's for safety reasons as well. Funny story. So this was, I woke up, hand, right, can't see. So I get my point zero gives me my point. I plot where I am, and I plot my next point, and it was like a 13-kilometer movement or something like that was my first movement.
That's a good haul.
Yeah, in pitch darkness.
Yeah.
Through terrain where, keep in mind, they burn a lot, so trees fall down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about a fallen down tree, it's at about the perfect height to intercept your shin bone.
Your shins, yeah, man.
So there's more story. I'll give you another story on that too. So I plot my first point, and I get my azimuth. I'm like, there we go. And so I turn off my stuff, and I just start walking. I mean, I'm getting smacked in the face, and
you're just staying on that bearing.
I've got my compass out, and I'll look at it, and because you got the little loom that's barely you can see, and
a little doghouse,
as long as they stay in line, I'm like, all right, I'm on, and I've got my pace count beads, and so I'm moving out, and I get to my first point, my first checkpoint, and I'm like, all right, cool, all right, so I close it up, and in the moment, because I was just in the moment at that point, like I'm like, this is surreal, like I'm doing the Star Course. Like, this is wild. Like, it's actually happening. I turned my compass upside down. Didn't realize it. So I had started moving in the complete opposite direction I was supposed to.
Reverse bearing.
I reversed.
Yeah. Dang.
And so
I've done that before.
I'm going, and now there's small water features throughout, but there's no major water features in where we are. But there is a major water feature that borders one of the borders. And so I'm walking along, just bopping along, just, okay, here we go. I'm fighting through some stuff and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, I drop off into water that comes up to my neck.
Just right off a bank.
Right off a bank.
Gosh,
here we go.
Man.
I'm like,
and it's cold.
It's cold. My ruck starts floating because, we pack it so it's waterproof and all that kind of stuff. So it's, I'm like, well, in all my wisdom, I'm like, all right, so I'm getting through it, and I get to the other side. And I get out, and I'm like, what? And I, cover over, and I look at my map. I'm like, why? I'm like, this is not here. Like, I shouldn't have just gone neck deep in water on this azimuth and path that I plotted. And so I'm like,
that's not good.
I'm like, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right. So I keep going in the direction that I headed to get me to that point. So I'm still going in the wrong direction. And I'm fighting, and I'm like, and I get to this open area, and I'm like, I look at it, and I can see tree lines, and so I'm trying to terrain associate and look at the map because, you can see, where it's forested or woodlands and fields and stuff like that. And I'm looking for what I'm seeing, and I'm like, and eventually I kind of come down here, and I see the boundary that's a river, and I see this little field over here. I'm like, uh-oh. So I immediately realized I have screwed up. And I hightail it. I put my stuff on, and I turn, and I just start running. And I get back to that water. I find the water, and luckily I found a log that had crossed the water, and then I follow the water down, and I find where I started. Because where I started was right on the border of that water. And I found my start point. Guy comes out. He goes, man, you made it here quick. I was like, oh, no, I started here. I just came back to make sure that I kind of got turned around a little bit. He's like, oh, well, all right, cool, man. I was like,
holy crap,
and I am
man.
soaking wet at this point.
But at least you found your start point again because you have to know where you're at before you can go anywhere.
That's right. So I got lucky on that. So I found my start point and then took off, and then I got the rest of my points. So it was interesting experience to start things off. It was a little shaky at the beginning there, man, but I corrected course and got back to it, man.
Yeah, it'd be hard to get locked on mentally again after that, man.
Yeah, you just had to laugh about it and shake it and like, oh, okay, that'll be a story.
All right, let's take a little break, man.
Yeah.
We'll come back in a few.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about 96, 97 degrees out here in Georgia for this mission this weekend. Flat out the most important element of keeping this team moving and keeping everyone safe is going to be hydration. When it's this hot and you're moving for this long, you sweat so much that water is just not enough to replenish your body and all that your body is losing. And that's why we're going to utilize HOIST out here heavily. It's not even an option to not use HOIST out here. If they don't have a hydration supplement, if they don't have something like HOIST replacing their electrolytes, it could become dangerous for them. We're thankful that Hoist puts out the product that they do put out. Oh yeah, man, you're in there's no telling what's going on over there. He has a whole shrine over there in that back corner. So that's only half because it was so big. I had to take the other half of his shrine and pile it up, all of his costumes.
I see.
Yeah.
Over there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's
chili.
it's a really honorable place to be sitting there.
Hey, I feel it. I feel the energy in here.
But we're back, guys. Thanks for staying with us. So you get through the land nav course. What's the third week?
That's team week. That's where they go evaluate how you're going to participate in a team setting. So it's that's the fun one, man. That's where they put you through, all the stuff, and they put you in teams. And how they assemble the teams, I have no idea. But they assemble you in teams, and then you're given a cadre, and every day you've got certain tasks that you all go out and do as a team, and building implements to carry things and moving unnecessarily heavy objects over unknown amounts of distances, and carrying water jugs, and all kinds of, they come up with all kinds of great little fun activities for you to do as a team, to come out, and you kind of have, pick a leader, someone that may have some experience there, and everyone kind of finds, their place. Okay, I know I can do this really well, so I'm gonna do this for the team, right? So I can, they make it to where failure is most certainly going to occur, and to see how you respond.
Okay,
to it, right? The time hacks that they give you are very tight.
Yeah,
and if you don't meet it, there are repercussions. How you handle those repercussions.
Yep.
How do you handle when someone starts falling apart?
That's good stuff, man.
Being selfless, like, carrying the weight. Can I carry this weight a little bit further so that someone else can rest a little bit longer?
Yep.
So they're constantly evaluating. They're not talking to you, the cadre, just there. They will bump steer you if you start doing something wrong, or if you start screwing up, you might have to do a little, ruck party over your head, or, go, find a little body of water and go wash yourself. So, team week is a special week, but it's a good week because it really emphasizes what being on a ODA is all about. Mm-hmm. Right, it's all about being part of a team, and
How big is the class?
So my class was pretty big, and I don't know if I'm saying that, it sounds big, but I mean we started with I think almost 400 people.
Yeah.
In our class. Mm-hmm. And I believe we ended up with, maybe just over 100.
Holy smokes, dude.
I think. Yeah. And then that's just getting selected.
That's over the course of 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Good night, man.
Yeah.
So they're calling dudes hard then.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're constantly,
holy smokes.
There's things that can get you all the time. Because you can make it all the way through selection, the 3 weeks, and still not get selected.
Yeah.
Because you may have done some things throughout that time that just added up and just you're not for us.
So you have like a final evaluation after those 3 weeks. That's like a
I mean they will definitely evaluate each individual. I mean they got their little pads. Anytime you see a pad come out, you're like, what you writing down? They're always writing stuff down. They're always you're always being evaluated, and that's what we always say, right? You're always being evaluated. The evaluation never stops. Yeah, like even today, where I sit now, the evaluation is still ongoing. Yeah, right. So, but yeah, you're constantly being evaluated. So, like I remember one time, this was during team week. We had moved our implement, and we were just getting our souls crushed. Because of how heavy it was, and I mean things weren't working out too well for us, and it's just hard. I mean, it's just hard. And we had a water break, and you've got your little rubber ducky, right? Your rifle, and man, that thing, it is supposed to go with you everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I was just out of it on this one little leg, and we broke for water, and I set it down. I walked over, got my water. And then I turn around and I look at a cadre, and he's staring at this tree. And I look at the tree, and I realize he's staring at my rifle. And man, if he had gotten there before me, I mean, I ran like I've never run before. I feel like I was back in college. I mean, I beeline for that, because if they get a hold of that thing, now they still dock me.
Yeah.
You know, they still gave me I forget what they call it, but they still, you know, some type of slip or something. I don't know.
We would call it in the Navy a chit.
Yeah. You know, they have some term for it, and you're trying not to get those. You're trying not to stack those up.
Yeah.
And so luckily I'd done pretty well, but they got me on that one.
If they get a hold of it, though, it's real bad.
It's real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real bad. But yeah, I mean, it's special, man.
Dude, that's a huge attrition rate over the course of 3 weeks. I mean, that's a short period of time to lose that many guys.
Yeah.
Because our first phase, which is like selection, like the selection kind of what you're talking about, it's 6 weeks long.
Right.
And we have a hell week in there. So we started out with 300 dudes, and we've probably got, after hell week, in the 40s maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's a longer period of time. I mean, you're talking 3 weeks. So,
yeah.
What was the most challenging thing for you personally in that 3 weeks?
I mean, it's definitely within team week, I'd have to say. I mean, because, you know, there's a pretty famous implement and, you know, leg that you'll do during team week, and it's brutal. And everyone knows it's coming. You don't know when it's coming, but you know it's coming. If you're going through the process, you've heard of it. And if your team starts to fall apart or guys start to give out, well, you got to keep going. You don't get to just stop and like, all right, this is good. No, you got to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had some dudes that were hurting pretty bad. At that point, I mean, your feet's beat up. I mean, you're beat up. You're tired. I mean, you're wore out, you know, from all the things you've already been doing.
Yeah.
And, man, I mean, I had to really step to the plate physically to try to continue to pick up some slack that was just being created from guys that were just hurting.
Yeah.
And not that they were quitting or giving up. They just physically were just in a place to where they could not do what we needed them to do at that time. And that's okay, as long as you just don't quit and find a job that you can do.
That you can do.
Yeah,
that's a good word, man.
You know?
I wish people would hear that more often when, like, on the ROP course and stuff, you know.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It applies there, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was it got pretty dark in that one, and just carrying the sheer volume of weight over the, you know, and, you know, up in North Carolina, it's sand.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that sand is
hard to move in, man. It gets in everything.
It gets in everything.
It gets in every crevice of your body, dude.
And it is hard to move in, and it's just miserable. So that team week was pretty brutal.
What about tempers during that week? Do tempers flare? I mean, do guys get frustrated with each other?
Luckily, the team that I was on, we were pretty daggum successful.
That's good.
We had a really strong team, and I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it was just, once again, I said, I don't know how they go out and pick the teams, but they put us on a pretty strong team together.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kind of just fell into a role naturally. So we did well, but I mean, we passed a lot of teams that would just be dogging each other. You having it out, just tired, just wore out. And I remember,
I could only imagine and you've been going for weeks and weeks at this point.
Oh yeah. And I mean, you know, our first team week event, we were carrying some stuff over an unknown period of distance, and it was a lot of stuff. And we had a guy drop out within the first, 400 meters of this movement. And we were moving for, you know, kilometers and kilometers. And he was like, dude, why would you wait? Why would you get started with us as a team? We've come up with this plan. You're part of it. You're going to get 400 meters into the first movement of this week and quit.
Yeah.
And he just quit. I was like, he looked perfectly physically fine.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done.
Yeah, he probably got mentally overwhelmed. The same reason everybody quits.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And we just watched him, and we said, all right. And luckily, we all picked up his slack, and just kept trucking on. But I mean, you know, things like that happen. I mean, we were not happy with him, but it's like, you know, all right, well, whatever. It is what it is. You know, we go on. And so we kept going. But yeah, team week is by far, I think, just because of all the things that have added up to that point. You know, the physical, you know, the mental, the food, sleep, you know, all the stuff. So
the stress. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So is there a graduation at the end of that, or?
Yeah. So they like to mess with you, which is always kind of fun, and they do it all. I think each one's kind of different on how they do it. So like you're kind of in formation, and you all have your numbers on you, and you would have like this formation randomly throughout the 3 weeks, and it's when they kind of cut people that didn't meet the standard, or whatever, and so you're just kind of standing there, you're just hoping you're hoping or not hoping that your number gets called, because they would mess with you. Sometimes the numbers that got called were the people that were staying, or sometimes the numbers that got called were the people that got cut.
Yep.
And so you didn't ever really know. They're always mentally just kind of just poking at you, you know? And so the last one,
they've got it down to such a science, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was our last formation. We had done our, we'd done the trek, the last, long movement of selection. And I'll never forget when I put my chip in that box and it said, you no longer have to run everywhere. Man, that was a great feeling. But yeah, so we're just kind of standing there, and the guy comes out, call him the Reaper, and he's like, all right. So he starts calling off numbers, and they're forming up over there, and my number doesn't get called. And I'm like, all right, well, either I didn't make it or I made it. You don't know, because there were some decent dudes over in that group, and they told them to go away. And then as soon as they got gone away and we couldn't see him anymore, he came back. He was like, all right, you guys have been officially selected. And I mean, I'm not a very emotional person at all, but I came to tears.
Yeah, I bet.
A little bit right there.
Yeah, I bet.
And a lot of the guys around me too, because a lot of hard work had gone into getting to there. And it's just so surreal, right? You're like, it's over, and I actually made it. But that, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes. You've been selected. Now you got to continue to go on and go through the queue and earn your GB.
Yeah.
Right. So, but at that moment, it was a pretty powerful moment for me. It was like, oh man, I potentially have what it takes, right, to go on and earn that GB. So.
And then do you roll then right into the Q course?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that the Q course? Are you learning actual tactics and things in there?
Yeah. So you'll go through a whole pipeline of stuff. You'll so we have our MOSs, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo.
Yeah.
And so whatever you are dictated or chosen to do, you'll do that as well. So like, I'm a Charlie, so explosives and construction and property books and all that kind of fun stuff. So you go through that pipeline individually as well with all the other Charlies or Bravos or whatever.
Okay.
But then there are other parts of the Q course, small unit tactics, right, and other pieces of it that you go through, SEER and all that kind of stuff.
Where the class comes back together.
So
you're staying with those same guys that you went through selection with unless you're doing your individualized.
Yeah, for the most part you do. Sometimes you get split off, like, the Deltas, the medics, they obviously have a much longer pipeline just because of their medical training. So you don't get to really go through it with them. But the other guys you do, unless, there's recycles and, stuff like that. The guys that may fail a portion of that, sometimes depending on what's going on, they'll let you try again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so for the most part, you'll try to make it through with your guys,
and then culminates with a big FTX, right?
Yeah, Robin Sage.
Yeah,
Robin Sage.
Yeah, that's a pretty legendary FTX. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's impressive. The amount of effort, time, money that goes into putting on something of that depth, right? Because it's hard to put someone like myself or a group of GBs, potential GBs, into a scenario to where you can really dive in and buy into the scenario.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, well, I'm in America. I can go over here and, go to McDonald's and buy a cheeseburger. Right. Well, they do a really good job of picking locations and places and creating scenarios that force you to treat it real and make you utilize all the things that you've been taught, and they evaluate you on what you're doing and how you're going about trying to accomplish whatever mission that you've been given to accomplish within your specific scenario. And they are constantly throwing you curveballs, inserting different issues or problems and people and scenarios, and seeing how you react and how you can weave it into what it needs to be or what it might be, or and they evaluate you individually on how you've done your job on an ODA in those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty neat to see how it all comes together. And every experience varies in Robin Sage. All of them are different. So like mine was completely different from every other, dude that was out doing his own Robin Sage in another part of, the state, the country, wherever. They go all over the place.
No kidding, man.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. They go all over the place to do that, to make it happen. So it's pretty neat.
So how long is that Q course in total for you?
Yeah, I mean, it'll take you about 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's solid. But you're coming out the other end of that Q course with a specialty.
Yep.
That you can then take and plug into a team.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's the whole concept.
Yeah.
And then once you get to your team, they kind of spin you up on some other stuff. And there's a lot of schools that some teams will require you to go to, depending on which team you get to, a mobility team, dive team, free fall team. There's different teams within a company, and so there's maybe specific schools that you have to go to once you get to your team.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really ever stop. Once you get the Q is just the beginning.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the basics, right? They're just giving you kind of the building blocks, the foundation.
You're usable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you get your green beret at the end of the Q course.
That's right.
Okay, so that would be the big graduation ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was during COVID, so no one got to come to my graduation. It was pretty sad.
It's hard, dude. It's that's wild that it's been that recent that you graduated from that.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that leads to that could be a whole nother conversation. What's it been like to be in the military during 2020? I mean, but we won't go down that path. This is about you, not politics and COVID. But yeah, man, good on you for staying with it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so much different than the Navy's pipeline, man. It's like we have our SQT, SEAL qualification training, 6 months long, where you come out of that and you go to a team after that and you're usable, but you still don't have your specialty.
Right.
You don't get your specialty school until you actually get to the team, and then you're either a breacher or a sniper or a medic, comms guy, whatever it may be. That's when you get your specialty. But so graduating that course, how did you feel graduating that? Like, did you feel like fulfilled or like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, and this, I mean, it's very small. It's a very small world in the SOF community. So to go from saying, hey, I want to do this, or I'm going to do this, and then to actually be putting on a green beret, the literal green beret, it's pretty surreal, right? That's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice.
It's your life.
Yeah.
That's your life.
Yeah. I mean, I moved up to Fayetteville for those years. This time we were married. Me and my wife were married at that point.
When did you guys get married?
So we got married before I came up to Fayetteville. So it was after basic. And so we had our 5-year anniversary this past June. So, yeah, it was, so, I mean, I moved up there. She stayed here, and she'd come up if there was little breaks in between schools that I was at during the Q course.
Yeah.
She'd come up and visit, stuff like that. So, that was tough, but we got through it. And, yeah, I mean, but yeah, it was when it actually was all over, because it's like, God, you sit there and you hear about the pipeline, the Q course, like, God, it's forever. It's 2 years.
Yeah, that's a haul, man.
It's a haul. And then, when it's finally over, it's the big one for me was, my father, he always talks about this, and we had this conversation not too long ago about, we were talking about regrets, right? And, one of his dreams was to be in the military, and he medically could not do that. So for me to go out and accomplish, the goal I had of becoming a Green Beret, and then being able to come back home and share that with him, meant a lot to him as well as to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was pretty awesome. And, it was one of those moments, he holds me to a very high standard, which I appreciate. And that always did through anything I was doing. Always, never satisfied, never settle, right? And so that was one of those moments, though, where I could tell he was truly proud, and that's rare.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because, I'd always kind of, like I said, we talked about all the things I'd been doing, never really got anywhere or accomplished much. I've, made some money and was, doing things like that. But this was something that was like something you could actually, be proud of.
Yeah.
Because of the hard work, the sacrifice, the discipline and dedication that it took to get there. He could actually appreciate that because he knows what it means to actually don that. So that was a big part for me.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. And it really led into the next thing I was going to ask. Like you talked about earlier, all the things that you had done over the course of, well, it's essentially almost a decade, and through your 20s and even your early 30s, you were like, everything I did, there was never anything that hit that spot of, I could lay down in bed at night and be excited about what I had to do tomorrow for my work, So is this thing, has this been that for you? Has it been?
Oh man. So yeah, I wouldn't say totally.
Yeah.
Right. I definitely say, because going through the Q course, it's long, and there are parts of it that suck. And, so there are parts where you hate it because the military has its things that are just going to drive you crazy.
Oh yeah.
There's some things that, going on in that world that's just part of it. But depending upon the kind of person you are, it can drive you nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say there were times, even like going through selection, where I was excited to be there, man. No matter how bad it sucked or how much I was hurting or hungry or tired, I was loving it.
Man, that's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is.
It's it's rare to have those seasons in life.
And the other guys that were going through selection with me, they would see me and they'd be like, dude, why are you so happy?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you don't understand. Like, I've worked so hard to be here, and it's happening. And this is where I want to be right now.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's a gift, and like, if you're not enjoying this, then you're probably not here for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can relate to that, man. When I was going, I can look back on my time when I went through buds, and there was never a day, not a single moment in buds that I didn't want to be there.
Right.
Now, that being said, because I was young, I didn't always appreciate it as much as I should have appreciated it, or as much as I could have appreciated it if I would have had a little more maturity. But there was never a single moment out of that whole 6 months where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
That never popped into my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know if I can think of another 6-month time period of my life where that's never been a thought.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that a lot. That's a rare thing.
It is.
Yeah. So now that you're out, you know, you're finished with training, you know, you're at your team, you're doing that deal, which you've done a lot of awesome stuff already. And a lot of things that you volunteer for that you don't even have to do. I mean, we won't go into detail with all that stuff. I don't want to, because you are still doing the job currently, I'm not going to dig into deployments and, you know, things that you're doing on the team right now, because that's all current stuff. We can talk about that stuff years down the road when it's more appropriate.
Yeah.
But I would, you know, it surprises me that I've never heard you mention Delta or, you know, the tier 1 units.
Yeah.
Because that just, I mean, have you thought about that? Where are you at with that? I mean, because I know you're fairly early on in your career, but is that something in your mind?
Oh, trust me, it's been there. It's been there from the get-go.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, look, in my opinion, if you're not constantly trying to better yourself and get to the top, you know, you might as well be wasting your time.
Well, I guess the question should really be: is this something you plan to do for a long time?
Right. You know, I'm not sure. Right. I'm enjoying it. Of course, there are parts of it that, you know, I wish could be different.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of the way of the military. I love my team. I got a great group of dudes, man. I really do. You know, in our company, I'm lucky to have the team that I have. We got great leadership in our team. And we got a great company overall. But, so, you know, what would bring me back would be them, is, you know, that camaraderie. Like, we don't get to see each other that much, but when we do, it's like we never stop seeing each other.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, I'll see one of them for the first time in a few months and see, you know, what's up, brother? You know, miss you, man. And it's just roll right back into it.
Yeah, I got buddies like that. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's pretty cool. You know, and even when we see each other and we go on these deployments and stuff like that, you know, we don't have problems. You know, we enjoy being around each other.
That's good, man.
And that's apparently kind of rare.
That is very rare, for sure.
And I've heard some stories from others that, you know, don't sound so much fun. But so I really appreciate the guys I have on my team. And
man, I think the way that you're doing it, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but the way that you're doing it, being what is it? Is it the National Guard or okay? I think that's such like that is so much more of a healthy and sustainable way to do that job, to serve your country,
right?
Than being all out active duty.
Right.
Like, it's so cool for me to be able to watch you and kind of understand, like, okay, well, Kirt can have goals and he can have a life and he can do this job. And I wonder if that isn't part that's got to play into why your team probably functions so well together. Is you know, you can go back home and kind of decompress, and have a life, man. But when I was in active duty, it's like you never got away from it.
Yeah.
For 10 years, dude, that was my literal life. Every single, like, I didn't hunt. I didn't do anything, man, but that job, you know? And I just, it amazes me when guys are able to do that job, active duty, for 20 plus years. And ultimately, the truth is it destroys most of them.
Right.
But the way you're doing it, I just think, why would you not do it that way?
I mean, we all say, you know, it's when we have people come approach me or us, it's, you know, we always say it's the best kept secret.
Yeah. Why would you not do it that way?
You know, it really is great because you can you can dive in as deep as you want to go, to the point to where you're just as involved as an active duty member may be.
Yeah.
Or you can back off completely because you need to. And still be part of the team and still be a functioning member of that team. Now there are times where you may back off too much and, disconnect too much or not be showing up to drills and maybe not trying to go after schools that you should be going after, or things that you need to be doing to constantly trying to sharpen yourself and, provide yourself more tools so that you can be more effective and useful at your job or whatever. So, you can fall into that trap of slipping away, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But for the majority of people, though, it is, and if they can find that balance between it, because it is unique and it does require specific types of civilian side careers or jobs that are compatible, right? But if you are capable, and it's not hard, but if you're capable of finding that balance, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because, like I've been going, this year I've been pretty busy. I've been going hard for the most of this year, but that's by choice.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to dive into some of these schools and do some of these things where I'm giving back and stuff like that. So, and I've got more coming. So you can really choose your own adventure. And we can jump on, I've got buddies that are on deployments right now with other teams, so, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
But and going back to the original question I asked you that led us down this path of this conversation, is it something you want to do long term? And I think you said you don't know yet, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I mean, I'm definitely not interested in getting out yet.
Yeah.
I just need to, I'm kind of at this point to where I'm trying to nail down what I'm doing outside of it, because I'm trying, like I see, I'm trying to do this tactical game stuff and other things of that nature. And so I'm trying to find ways to develop a career in fields that I truly have a passion in. So, there are full-time opportunities in the Guard doing what I do, right? As a GB, there's plenty of them, but maybe not necessarily something that I'm completely passionate about.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm just kind of juggling it right now. I'm trying to find that nice balance of doing something that I'm truly passionate about outside of here. And I think I'm on the right path. I think I found something that I'm truly passionate about and enjoy doing. And I enjoy the journey of it, the grind of it. And I'm hoping that through this path that I'm going down, I can find, companies, people, whatever, either to work for, represent, however you may, that I can then find somehow a career in that. How it looks, what it looks like, I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So definitely not interested in trying to leave, the team anytime soon. And I'm pretty sure I have a little bit of time before that even is a thought anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, as far as, going to the next level, it's.
And now, would that require active duty commitment?
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then that just becomes your entire life.
That comes your entire life. Absolutely. At that point, yeah. And it should.
It has to. It has to.
Yeah. You are completely involved in that every second of your life, and your family is too. And that's kind of, so I would love, because I'm always trying to take myself to that next level, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. And that is the next level, right? Well, I would do it. I want to do it, but I have to, obviously I have a family now, and I have to take into consideration what that does to them. And that does a lot to them.
100%. Yeah.
All right. And we've kind of had those discussions. And where we are right now, it's probably just not the best fit. Could we make it work? Probably.
Yeah. Well, the question is it worth it though?
Right.
Like that's the thing.
Yeah. It would almost be a selfish endeavor
Mm-hmm.
at this point if I were to do it.
Yeah.
And I kind of made a promise to myself that I would at least try to go and do the long walk, to go up there and test myself against that, level. And I want to do that, and I hope I get the opportunity to do that. But I just don't think right now is the best time. Now, obviously, I'm getting up there in age. I'm almost going to be 40 here soon. So
yeah,
the clock is definitely ticking, but we'll see. It's something that, yes, I'd love to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to have that opportunity.
Man, that's it, and that's such a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Because you have to really be honest with yourself when you ask yourself that question.
Yeah. I mean, you that is a complete change in life.
It's sacrificing everything else that you love and enjoy in
your
life.
Family.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Everything that you love and enjoy is sacrificing everything for that one thing.
Yep.
And I think the answer to that question for me was no, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Like, I had so many teammates when I was in the Navy that, guys were going every couple months to go try out for green team, to go over to Dev Group.
Yeah.
And I asked myself that question many times, especially later in my careers, like, is that something I want to pursue?
Yeah.
But I had in my mind the same things we're talking about right now. And when I asked myself that honestly, and I looked at my wife and I looked at my other things that I enjoyed about life and looked at my future, the answer for me personally, honestly, was no, that's not worth it.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of guys, I guess it was.
Yeah.
But that's a personal thing, I think.
Yeah.
So.
It would be a massive, change and commitment, because, my wife is very close with her family, very, very close.
Yeah.
And I am as well, but they are on a whole nother level. And for them to, pluck up, and because you're moving to North Carolina,
mm-hmm.
and you're going up there, and, now you're home for at least, 6 years, at least.
Yeah.
If not more. And that's all it's going to be. So it's.
Yeah. It's a hard thing, because it's not a question of, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course you want to do it.
Right.
But you have to weigh it in the balance,
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about tactical games, man.
Mm-hmm.
You've come into this sport, which is it's a growing sport, and I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yep.
I'm seeing good things. Their content's good. Their events are good. The people are good.
Yeah.
They have all the ingredients in that sport to be something that grows into something that's sustainable and man, they put in the freaking work to make those things happen. I mean, these guys are working to make these things happen. I couldn't imagine even putting on a single event that they put on, and they're going and doing them back to back to back. And I hope it does continue to grow, man, and I think it will. Mm-hmm. But you've come into this sport and latched onto it, man. Mm-hmm. What's drawn? Well, I mean, obviously you love to shoot. Mm-hmm. You love fitness.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
That's really what drew you to it.
Yeah, man. I mean, those are my two passions.
Yeah.
Like, I love fitness and shooting. I would
say you have three passions: fitness, shooting, and teaching.
There you go.
I really
Teaching
think
those two.
teaching is a passion
Yeah.
for you, man. I've just seen it in you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love helping people. Like, you know, we were just at the range, and you know, I love seeing people, new people come
You don't
out.
have to do any of that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody expects that from
No,
you.
I love doing that. I think it's
You
awesome.
come out to the range with me and my people, and like you may not even shoot around.
Yeah, that's all right.
And you're just you're happy to be out. I'm like,
still-
why
I'm
did this
still-
guy drive all the way out here? He hasn't even shot around.
I'm still learning though. That's how,
Yeah.
I mean, you can still learn from that and get better from it. So yeah, I mean, I love seeing new people come into the sport, and in fitness as well. You know, I love seeing new people show up to the gym that are trying something new for the first time, that are absolutely terrified of it, and then they give it a go. And like I coached a lot of people that are still at the CrossFit, you know, Rome Strength and Fitness. And, you know, I was their first coach, did the onboarding with them, and now one of them's a coach there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really, so I love sharing. You know, I've been exposed to a lot of great, you know, physical performance, you know, institutes, you know, especially like, you know, collegiate level stuff, and been around like when I went out to Arizona. And so I've gotten exposure at a lot of different levels of, you know, physical fitness, and if, you know, myself, I've been, you know, my own lab rat, if you will. And I found a lot of things at work, and I love sharing that with people. I think it's really neat to be able to help people accomplish goals that they don't think they can kind of accomplish.
Yeah.
Right. Like, well, all right, what's your goal? Well, you know, I think I'd like, okay, well, you think, well, that is now your goal. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can do it, but it's going to take some hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And I love breaking down those barriers for people. I think that's pretty powerful. That's pretty cool, especially like when we go to the ROB course, right? That was my first experience at that. And I knew I'd enjoy it because I know those types of experiences do things for people that they don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so me being like, you weren't out there, but, you know, one of the guys that ended up not making it, you know, I got to pour into him a little bit about, you know, some experiences I had, like going through selection or the Q course, and how it relates to what you're going through right now. And he ended up continuing after I talked to him, but eventually, you know, the heat got to him.
Yeah,
it was more of a heat casualty problem. But yeah, being able to go out there and help people, and, you know, I go out to our buddy Edgar's place and, you know, help him teach people, and people that are absolutely terrified or never handled a handgun before. You know, I love being able to take them and make them proficient in that weapon system so that they are comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, when I got to the tactical games, and saw that they were bringing the two together, you know, that's like a match made in heaven.
Yeah,
for me.
they're doing a good job at bringing the two together.
Yes,
too.
they are.
Yeah,
Yes, they are.
it's well balanced.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
you expect going into that competition for it to be physical or bias shooting, or
Right.
but they really are doing a great job.
Yeah.
At bringing the two together to where if you're going to be a winner there, you're going to have to be really good at both things.
Oh, yes.
You don't just get to be good at one thing.
No.
And so that is dynamic, man.
Yes.
You know, I'm used to ultra running. If I want to be good at ultra running, all I have to do is ultra run.
Right.
Like people say, go in the gym, you got to lift, no, dude, you run.
Yeah.
If you want to be a better runner, you run. One thing you have to do.
Right.
But with this sport, it's very dynamic.
Yes, it is.
Training program to be a winner there.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that, man, because it's drawing out the best in people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great
and
community.
When was your first competition there?
So I got into the tactical game. So I did my first tactical games-esque thing. It was an online version, and it was by this guy named Tim Waddock online, on Instagram or social media, and he put it on. And he was a competitor. He is still a competitor at this speaking, and he did an online version of it, and it was basically, I forget the workouts, but it was basically working out and shooting. But you videoed it, and then you'd submit your scores, and then he did like an online leaderboard and stuff like that. And so I was like, all right, cool, I can, you know, test it out, right? See if this is something I like to do. And so I did it over at Edgar's place, and loved it. Ended up getting second, and the guy that beat me was Sal Hernandez, who is a current stud in the elite division. We battled down in Florida earlier this year, and so that was my first experience. And then so I signed up for my first tactical games in Meridian, Mississippi, in 2022, right? Yeah. And I did tactical division there. Showed up, didn't know anybody. Sal was going to be there, and Tim, who put on the online competition. So I knew they were both going to be there. And so I saw Sal, went up to him, was like, "Hey, man," I was like, "I'm Kurt, and I was the guy that's second place in this, and I'm doing this and that." And they just immediately open arms, like, "Oh man, if you need anything," just the community there's incredible.
I agree. Yeah.
And so I competed and won. I won my first. I got first place in the tactical division there, and loved it. And my dad came out and got to watch it, so he got to experience it, saw me compete and all that stuff, which was awesome. And so after that, I was like, yeah, this is it. I wanted to get after it. And then I had to go on a deployment. And so I didn't get the chance to compete anymore that year, which I was pretty bummed about. I was watching it from a distance. And so next year come around, and I went to Iowa. And I did tactical division again in Iowa. I won there, first place. And so that got me, because you go to these regional events and you have to place within the top 5. If you get in the top 5, you get the ability to sign up for the nationals.
Okay.
So I won that, so I got to punch my card for nationals. All right, so I signed up for nationals immediately, like right after that. So I went to nationals that year, tactical division. They called it the occupational division, and made it specifically for military, law enforcement, stuff like that. And ended up winning that one, and won it by a pretty significant margin. So I had my eye on the elite division, but I honestly didn't know if I was ready for it. These boys are moving some weight, man.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I mean it is really cool how stiff the competition is, even this early on.
Oh yeah.
In the tactical games arena.
Oh yeah.
So that they've drawn out some really solid athletes.
Dude, there are some dudes in that elite division, man. There are some serious dudes. I've gotten to compete against a few of them, but there's a good few, many more that I haven't gotten to see yet.
Yeah.
Especially out on the West Coast, there's some animals. Mm-hmm. And they can move some weight and do some shooting. So, so I jumped into the elite division this year, and have just put in the work, and it's worked out well for me so far. So I took first down in Florida with Sal. I got to battle it out with Sal, and there were some other studs in that group, man. That was a serious group of dudes, as far as former competitors and people that have been in the elite arena, that have podium nationals, right? So to go out there and, get my feet wet and do that, and completely unexpected, to be quite honest with you. I had just come off a school that, may have given me some help pulling a lot of triggers. So, yeah, went down to Florida and took first place.
Well, you say may have given you some help maybe on the shooting end, but not on the physical end.
Oh,
no.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, I feel like when you went down to Florida to compete, you were not tuned up.
No. Certainly not. No, I mean, I tried to do as much as I could physically, but, most of these schools that we go to are not set up.
There's just not time.
There's just not time. Yeah. There's not time for you to be physically. Now, you can make the time.
Yeah, but then you're sacrificing sleep, you're sacrificing meal prep,
Yeah. So there's time. You can make time to do things, and I did my best to make time to do those things. I had to. I wanted to, because I'd already signed up to do that. So it definitely helped in some aspects, but I was able to get it done, and then we come along down the road, and I sign up, to go to June, and ended up walking away, not knowing who the competition was going to be. You don't know that. And typically you don't ever know until you actually show up.
Mm-hmm.
But this time they had already preset the roster with the athlete numbers and sent it out. So I was able to actually see who was showing up, and that's when we got that good surprise.
Yeah. The current national champion in the elite division was there.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
So Mr. Hepner was going to be there, and Austin as well, who was third place in nationals last year. So two of the big dogs, were coming to my side of the country to come compete, and man, I got excited because now I went into that competition with the sole intent, and we talked about this well before I knew they were going to be there, to just kind of measure myself, practice some things, try some stuff out. Let's see what happens when I redline. Where does my shooting fall off? How hard can I push it? How easy can I push it and still be competitive? Like, I wanted to find those things out.
Yeah, and I think your ultimate reason was you were coming there to support me.
Yes.
And you were going to get some shooting in
That's right.
on the side.
I signed up because you signed up, and I was like, I'm going to come there and compete with you, and, we're going to do this together. We're going to get you on the podium. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it didn't work out that well, Your leg had other plans. So, but yeah, man, went up there and got it done. Got to compete against those two studs and some other studs as well. I mean, you got Nick and the other Jacob, and man, it was awesome getting to measure yourself, because that's the best in the sport, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So, what better way to measure yourself?
It's for you to go up there and win against the current national champion in that division, in the elite division.
Yeah.
For you to win against him, no matter if he was holding back, like I don't care what he was doing, right. Like whatever he was doing, it means nothing.
Sure.
The advantage is, I will stand by this. Mm-hmm. You will never win unless you believe you can win.
Oh, 100%.
Now, don't think I'm trying to sound corny here. All right, I'm not trying to give you some corny motivational speech here.
Yeah.
This is the truth.
I believe
if
that.
you get it in your head that you can win, hey man, folks better look out.
I'm telling you right now, you would be surprised at how much I believe that's true, because I literally tell myself on a daily basis that I'm going to go win this.
Yeah.
And I've been telling myself that for a long time, and I believe it. Like legitimately believe it. Now, you got to go put in the work.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're not manifesting the win by your belief.
Manifesting it,
but it's an absolutely essential ingredient.
Oh yeah.
To actually, and I'm not talking about getting third place. I'm not talking about getting second place. No. I'm talking about literally beating everyone.
Yeah.
It is an essential ingredient, and I know you've been telling yourself that, but then to actually experience it and say, okay,
yeah,
like to me that's a game changer. I so relate to that, because that documentary that's on Amazon where I win that race. Well, I won that race the year before that, and I didn't make up my mind that I could win until about halfway through on the first year. And I started looking at everybody, and I thought, dang, I can win this thing. Yeah. Like, I feel good. Yeah. And I won. And then coming back the second year, I nobody could have beat me, because I just knew in my mind that I was going to win.
Yeah.
And short of some major unknown physical catastrophe, like a freaking heart attack, or I broke my leg or something, like you just become unbeatable.
Yeah.
The mind is so freaking powerful, man. It is so powerful, and people don't understand what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah, man. It's when you can believe the words, and you can not necessarily manifest, but when you can talk to yourself and you can literally, and like without any reason of doubt, believe what you're telling yourself. I promise you, it will do things it will do things for you that you can't even imagine. Man. Like I told myself, I'm going to go for Florida. I wanted to win that one. I wanted to come out the gates, and I wanted to kick that door open and let people know that I was there.
Yep.
Now, I had my doubts just because of where I had just come from physically. Mm-hmm. And I got my butt whooped on some of them stages physically, for sure. But I was so convinced that I had put in enough work and had told myself that you can win this well before I had ever showed up on that stage, that weekend. I was so convinced that I could win it that you just believe it. And there's nothing that's going to stop you. It's crazy what it can do for you, because as soon as you let those doubts start creeping in, I can't finish. It's amazing how fast it'll break you down.
Or you just see someone that you don't think you can beat.
Yeah.
Okay, I've done that before. Like I was running a last man standing race years ago, and there was a guy that was running. His name was Olivier Leblanc. Ultra runner like extraordinaire. Like this dude runs 12-hour 100-milers.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like he can start a 100-miler and finish before sunset in the mountains. And I had looked. Sometimes it's a bad idea to look at your competitors' resumes before you go and compete against them, because I had looked at this guy's race results, and I'm running this race against this dude, and I did not believe I could beat him.
Yeah.
And because of that, it was impossible for me to beat him. It didn't matter how hard I would have trained.
You'd already set them roadblocks.
It literally didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I started that race not believing that I could beat him.
Yep.
Therefore, it was an absolute impossibility for me to win, barring a catastrophe that took him out of the race. We're trying to tell you guys this from experience, okay?
Yeah.
So for you to be able to do what you did this past weekend in North Carolina, I just think for me it's just, I was so happy to see that happen, because I know what that does to the mind. And I know also that you're mature enough to handle it. Like, because the bad thing that could happen is you could have done what you did last weekend in North Carolina and won against the national champion, current national champion. You could have won against him, and you could have then said, okay, I got this, man. I can back off a little bit, But you're mature enough to handle it and leverage that experience in the right direction.
That's right.
No. So you guys think about that if you're listening.
Oh, yeah. No, it's seeing that and experiencing that, it lit a fire. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It lit a fire because I want it bad.
Yeah.
And I've, like I said, in the interview I did with Lauren afterwards, and you spoke about it. I've got one goal this year.
Yeah, that was I mentioned it briefly on last week's podcast, but that was the number one thing that I took away from that interview you gave her, which you took like I said, you took the high road on that interview. I was really hoping you were going to talk some smack, but no, it's not time for that.
I think that first place finished did enough.
So that was one thing that you said is that's what this year's all about for me is winning the national championship in this highest division here at the Tactical Games. And, I told you on a private phone call we had, I said, that's something that I've always known is to win, it requires a singular focus. But I've slipped from that in the last maybe a year and a half, 2 years of my life, because I've wanted to do so many other things, and that's fine. Yeah. But you can never expect to actually win unless you have that singular focus, and you have that. And that's dangerous. I mean, that's why I essentially believe that I believe in you more than I should probably tell you. Like, I believe you're untouchable, not because you're anything. I'm not putting you on a high horse or saying that you're better than anyone else physically. It's just you have all the ingredients in this season.
Sure.
And you have all the right ingredients, man.
Yeah.
And it may be different next year. I'm not saying that somebody can maintain that over the course of their entire life.
Oh, yeah.
But this season, you have the ingredients to be a winner for sure.
Yeah. No, that's it, man. That's all I want this year. You know, like I said, I want it bad. I'm putting everything I have into it. You know, financially, you know, time wise, effort wise. You know, as soon as we're done with this, I'm going straight to the gym. You know, it's you know, we shot earlier today. Go to the gym. You know, it's all I'm eating and breathing right now is trying to accomplish this goal, and then just hope that it opens the door, you know, for opportunities so that I can stay in this space and be a part of it and give back. You know, teaching or, you know, creating products or using products or whatever it may be within this space, because I love this space.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I hope people see that passion, and you know.
Yeah, it needs to become it at the level of commitment that you're putting into it. It has to at some point become sustainable financially to continue to put that much into it, right? Because at some point it's like, okay, well, money's running low.
Yeah.
Because it's an expensive sport. Well, you can compete in the sport and it not be expensive.
Absolutely.
But if you want to dial everything in, you're going to have to spend some money. Yes, and it's not just a one-time purchase either. No. So that has to become sustainable at some point.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're already giving back to the sport. You're already, I mean, you've brought so many people from our little local community here into the sport. I mean, my wife, my friends, James, Jennifer, me, my little brother, JD and his son. And like, you're really, and it's amazing to me that you're doing all of that on top of what you're doing for yourself so that you can win on the level that you want to win. It's like, you know, that's an amazing capacity, man, to be able to, but you're doing it naturally. I told you that on the phone the other day. It's like, you're doing it because it's just who you are.
Yeah.
It's so easy to turn inward and just say, no, I'm just focusing on myself, and this is all I have the capacity to do if I want to win at this level. But you have an expanded capacity to where you're bringing other people into this sport, which is what has to happen for this to be something that's sustainable for the athletes at the highest level to do this full time. Yeah. It has to grow.
That's right.
It has to grow.
Yep.
So everybody who's competing in this sport and you want to go to that higher level, or maybe you want to make this something that you can do on a more full-time basis, you should be also, hey, man, come to the tactical games with me. Like, you should be bringing people in because that's the way it grows.
Oh, yeah. I think everyone in the community does that.
Yeah.
I think they do it really well, actually. Because, I mean, you'll see you can come to these events and not know anything. And, heck, you can walk up to me, any of the elite athletes, and just because we're in the elite category, like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You know, we want to see everyone succeed, and if we can help you, like, people come up to me and ask me questions, ask away, man.
Yeah, they don't like have you guys roped off.
No.
Like,
it's an open forum, man.
It really is, man.
Yeah. You come sit down next to me. Let's talk about it. You know, like we are nothing on, like, you know, some type of pedestal or anything like that. No, we just lift heavier weights. You know, that's all it is, man. So,
but
But yeah, man, I love the sport. I love what they're doing. I love what the Knicks are doing, and that whole team that he's assembling, and how they're slowly growing into it, and the sponsors that they're bringing on, and the people that are supporting the sport, and I think they're developing good relationships, and I think it's going to continue to grow in a really amazing way and do a lot for the community, and so I'm happy to see where it's going. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Is there anything else, any other advice that you would give to people either competing at the tactical games or whatever their endeavor is, because you're doing it right, man. And we've touched on it. We've touched on the hard work. We've touched on the singular focus. We've touched on a little bit on mindset, but are there any other components that you think have really served you well in this journey?
Yeah, I think one of them, and this is where you might come in on this one, is having a team. Like if it's just one person, having someone to work with. Like, I love it when me and you get to go in the gym together, and get after it. Or I work out with, Hamza. Having people around you that are going after similar goals that can push you, that will hold you accountable, is massive.
Yeah.
When I was going through the process of training and, trying to get ready for a selection, I was on my own, and it sucked.
Yeah, man.
I'm back there in the back just grinding away, and I've got no one back there to lean on. Now, that may have its benefits to some degree, because there are portions of that course where you are on your own, and you need to make sure that you can deal with those demons when they come knocking on the door, because they're going to come knock. But at the capacity of like doing something in the tactical games, if you can have a buddy, a partner, whatever, that you can train with and push each other and have fun with it, go shooting together, right, and learn with each other, you'd be amazed how fast, how much quicker you will evolve and learn and grow when you have someone to lean on, someone to push you, someone to hold you accountable. So that's a big one, right? And that's why I love bringing people in. Absolutely. Come on, let's go. Come be a part of it. You want to come work out? Come on, let's go. You want to go shoot? All right, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Never hold a handgun before? Don't care. I'll teach you, right? But other than that, just show up.
Yeah.
Man, don't be scared. If the things that you're doing aren't scaring you a little bit, then you're not doing it big enough. You need to be scared a little bit. You need to be a little nervous when you show up. I was nervous as hell when I showed up in Florida. They call over all right, elite athletes, come over here, line up, get your athlete numbers. I'm sitting over there. I'm like, I start seeing all the dudes that are there, and I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
That level of nervousness, of being a little bit scared, told me that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't be scared to come out. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone a little bit. Come do hard things. And, man, you will grow more faster than you can imagine.
Yeah.
In more ways than you will be able to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, having a training partner is huge, but then just not being scared to go do things that scare you.
I agree 100%, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a huge part of the, like when I go speak, the speech I give is changing your environment, and how every time that I've grown in life, physically or mentally or even spiritually, it's because I walked into an environment where I was a little nervous and scared, but I also felt like I didn't belong, kind of felt like a fool. Like, everybody here is better than me.
Right.
But I'm going to walk through the front doors anyways. That has literally been the story of my life.
Right.
Yeah. It's just doing that over and over and over again.
So you just keep elevating.
Yeah.
So just keep pushing that envelope.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think people too, like, don't expect some magnificent breakthrough moment either. It's small little things.
Gradual.
Yep, that accumulate over time. Even with a training partner, it's like when me and Kurt get to train together, it's just like maybe every 3 or 4 times we work out, maybe he'll say something to me, or I'll say something to him.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that is a little chink in my armor there, like.
Yeah.
But it's not like just all of a sudden it clicks and it's like, oh, this is a game changer. It's just, man, it's just little things, little comments, little things you pick up, little things you see. You just might hear somebody say something. You're like, oh, haven't thought about that. Mm-hmm. That's the way it works, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that one day we were training and I was coasting behind you.
Yeah.
I was running behind you and you got in my butt after that and talking about, how, I forget exactly what you said, but it made me mad because you were so right. And it lit me a fire. And ever since then, that fire's just been burning inside.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't planned. It happens.
Yeah,
like you
naturally.
said, you got to show up for it to happen, though.
Yeah.
So, man, there's so much more we could talk about. We've probably been going close to 4 hours now. But where can people find you and follow you right now? I know you're on IG, right?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My last post I put out at the very bottom, I apologized in advance to everybody because I'm not the most social individual.
Mm-hmm.
But as I also said in that post at the very bottom, and I'm going to try to do better and try to accept, this is the world we live in now. This is, it's normal. It's okay to be open. And, this is how you can share your story, your experiences, and you can.
That's the perspective you have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to say, this is helping people.
Yeah.
Like I all my Instagram posts, Blake took them and put them in a book. And now I have 2 little books, and those are all Instagram posts. Yeah. And like people, I went to a speaking engagement this last weekend, and these guys, they had my book, and they had highlighted things, and things were meaningful to them and impacted them, and that's what those posts are all about, man. Yep. It's like, okay, I got something today I can share that might just help one person. Yeah. The same things we've been talking about on the podcast today. Yeah. That's what those are all about, and that's the perspective you have to have on it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to do better about it. I'm gonna try to do some things on YouTube. Like, I'd love to break down all the stages at Maxton that we did in this past TTG event, kind of how I saw them, how I went about them, how I break them down, because that's a thing, how I attack them. Like when we were there and, I walked with your brother and James and everybody and Tripp and Justin, I walked them around and said, hey, this is how this stage looks, and this is how I'm thinking about doing it, and this is why you should do that, and make sure you're doing this at this point, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I'd love to share that kind of stuff on how I see things when they break them down, and sharing equipment. Like I had guys come over to my tent when I was just sitting there. They're like, hey, man, do you mind if I see this? And ask me questions about my rifle setup and, why I run this, or what do you think about that? So, I'm going to try to do some stuff on, a YouTube channel.
No, hold on. Are you going to do it? Or are you going to try to do it?
Yeah.
It's really weird for me to hear Kurt Finnell say the words, I'm going to try to do it.
It's one of those I got to walk through the door.
That is throwing me off bigger than crap, dude.
I know, man. No, I will do it. I will do it. I'll commit to it right now. I'll do it. I'm going to do it. I don't know what it's going to be called. Because
well, Instagram now is K Factor, right?
Yeah, it's like K Factor 85 or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm gonna get on there and try to do some stuff like that and share my knowledge. And
we'll get that channel up tonight so I can attach it in the description of this show. Well, you don't have to do it tonight. It'll come out in about a week or so. Yeah, it's really easy. I don't know what I'm doing. It's really easy to start a channel, and you could make a video in literally 5 minutes and post it.
I'm going to look like Ricky Bobby on that thing. So if it's real awkward at first, I'm just going to go ahead and apologize. I may not know what to do with my hands. I may do some weird things. I may not have a mic. I'll be speaking into a phone like, hello,
Hey, you know what, brother? That's better than nothing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Gotta start somewhere, right?
You dang right you do, man.
That's right. So, but yeah, just to be able to share and give back, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Is all these the people that are in the community that want to learn, that want to get better. They're constantly asking questions like Tactical Games. They have a Facebook group, where they people go on and ask questions, and everyone can comment back, but. Being able to share all the experiences that I have, some of the training that I have, like there's some of the elite athletes, I always reach out to them and, when they need help, like, there's some stages that are maybe a little bit unknown to them. Like, okay, I'm not really sure how to break this down because I'm not used to shooting out to, 600 yards or whatever.
Yeah.
And, okay, well, let me help you. Let me show you how I look at it. And this is kind of what I'm doing. And here's how I break it down. So, hopefully I can offer that and, share that experiences with people, and people may enjoy it. We'll see.
Well, the content around the Tactical Games specifically, the content is lacking.
Yes.
In terms of instruction, in terms of this is how you set your gear up. This is, I mean, it's really, really lacking. Yeah.
And even stuff like, what are you doing in between stages?
Yeah. There's nothing out there,
how
man.
How are you recovering? Or, there's a whole bunch, there's a lot of nuances that go on during a weekend event like that.
Yeah.
Even when you go home at night, like, what are you doing?
All the stuff.
Yeah,
all that stuff's completely lacking, but I won't say there's nothing out there, but the things that you can find out there are not coming from athletes who are training at the level that you're training. And competing at the level that you're competing. Yeah. So I commend the guys who have put clips out there on how they set their gear up, because it helped me.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to be able to see that from somebody who has really taken it upon themselves to say, hey, okay, this is my craft. Yeah. Like, this is my singular focus, and this is what I've learned, and this is what has allowed me to win.
Well, that, and as well, I think it's always good to have different perspectives. Like, when I went to a kitchen and I had a new guy come in, I would show him how I would do things. Like, all right, this is how I set up my station, or this station in particular, and this is how I go about doing things. And then I would always end with, look, this is how I did this. This is the end product that I need you to achieve.
Yeah.
How you get there, I'm not too concerned with, as long as you end with the product, the standard that I have set. So sometimes different setups and different techniques and different styles fit with different people. So the way, Hepner may set up his stuff or do his things versus how I do my things, or Sal, or, Austin, or any of the elite athletes, they're all going to have little different nuances. So the more material and content that we can put out, so that people can go digest that and be like, oh, they can take a little bit from here and take a little bit from there. Like, oh, I like that. That makes sense to me. Or I don't understand what the heck's going on over here.
Well, yeah, man. But that space within that sport needs to be filled in on a public platform.
Yes.
Like, you might could pay for it in other places, but like, that space needs to be, somebody needs to and whoever steps into that space first is going to get the jump, and it needs to be done for people that are coming in. So yeah, I encourage you in that journey, man, for sure. It's just a new work.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
It's a new world, man.
Yeah.
It's a scary door.
But it's fun. Yeah. Well, brother, thank you so much for your time, dude. It's a big commitment to come on here and have a long conversation like this, but it's been really rewarding for me to be able to know you, a little better now.
Sure.
Know, where you came from, and a little bit of what you've been through, other than just the shooting and working out in the gym. That's really cool, man. And I'd love to have you back on after nationals. That'll be in November, right? Yeah. So we'll have you back on just for we'll get a little after actions report. People will be wanting an update, I'm sure. And we'll pick up on the conversation.
Absolutely, man.
After that. No, man, it's pleasure. And if you guys enjoyed the episode, go and find Kirt on Instagram. I'll attach his Instagram handle in the show notes of this podcast right here, and hopefully the link to his YouTube channel will be attached in the description of this episode. That's on him, not me.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, God.
And if you guys enjoyed the episode, man, shoot him a message and tell him you appreciate it. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time. Nuff said.